That's the opening credits, right?
Rocky's always like, you call too much, so maybe on a podcast I can just sit here and do this all day.
Rocky, do the would you
do the peacock?
Oh, God. Even Tom makes fun. Ready, Tom? Okay, here we go. Everybody, appreciate you joining us. Chad Belding, your host of This Life Ain't For Everybody, another podcast, another day. It's Friday, middle of April. We finally got some nice weather here in our area of the United States of America, this beautiful country that we live in. Going to be a high about 68. We're going to have a little fish fry tonight as well as a wild game feed. And for that, a couple of my good friends, they become great friends right across the state line in the great state of California. You guys have seen Mr. Rocque Merlo on the episodes of The Fowl Life several times. You've also heard me talking about, seen Brad Forsythe all over our social media as well as episodes. I just want to introduce these guys as salt of the earth human beings, and the number one thing that comes to mind with both of them is work ethic. They're both entrepreneurs, business owners in the area of Chico, California. Rocque makes his living in farming, farm management, almonds. I call them almonds. He calls them almonds, walnuts, you name it. He grows it. Rice. He's into Merlo waterfowl with his waterfowl hunting guide service, outfitting service, leasing blinds. And Brad works in the construction and engineering industry. He has a huge passion for number one, people, number two, hunting. So there's nothing about opposites attract here. We're all cut from the same cloth. Welcome, guys. Rocque, we'll start with you. Thank you for being up here. I hope the flight was okay. What was it, about 23 minutes?
42.
42 minutes? How was it? Was it bumpy?
No, it's smooth as silk.
Coming over the mountains was smooth, huh?
There was no bumps.
So you just woke up today and decided, hey, I don't want to drive to Reno. It's 3 hours. I'm just going to take the plane and hop over to Chad's place.
Yeah.
And it was worth it, huh?
I think so.
I got the call yesterday. It said, hey, be at the airport at 9 a.m. I'm like, airport? All right.
Yeah,
Right,
when you're rolling with Rocque.
Yeah.
And then you guys are like, we're taking the Escalade. And I'm like, what Escalade? And Rocky's like, oh, got an Escalade now. So something's going on there in that farming world, and I think we need to get into it, Brad.
That's right. I'll ride his coattails all the way through.
just sit there and pick up the crumbs.
Yeah.
Well, when you're the last name Merlo ends in a vowel. Merlo, that's an O. That means there's some Italian descent. He comes from an Italian family. He has family in Italy. I want to start this off with just talking a little bit about the roots of Rocque Merlo. His dad, Larry, was a pioneer, a trailblazer, one of the original OGs of California waterfowl hunting. The entire Merlo family was a huge part of the reason that the Butte Sink and that area of the country is so sought after now, as far as duck clubs go, as far as places like Rancho Esquan go. If you look up Rancho Esquan, Mr. Ken Hoffman owns it. He donated it back to the California Waterfowl Association to use it for different events. But Rocky's dad, Larry, was responsible for that. Rocque, just tell me a little bit about who was Larry, what did he stand for, and what did he do that drove this work ethic and this passion for hunting, and not just hunting, but giving back. And I've seen you give back so much to kids, women, conservation, California waterfowl. Talk to me a little bit about your dad, Larry, and what he meant to your overall being today.
Well, Dad started guiding back when he was about 17. And back then, farming was really tough to make any money in. But the hunters out of San Francisco and Sacramento would spend pretty good money to come out. And so my dad started his little guide service working with a guy named Jim Altenberg at the Llano Seco Ranch. And back then it was called Mallard Ponds. And they started guiding and taking clients. And then in 1981, Dad left the Llano Seco and started his own duck club called Butte Creek Gun Club, which is now called the Rancho Esquan. Back then it was Adams Ranch. So that's really where it all kind of took off from there. Again, farming was still it was tough to make a living in it, but the hunting brought really good income for 90 days. And so For 75 to 90 days, Dad would be out at the duck club every day, sun up, sundown, bringing people in. My mom and him worked tirelessly there. All the way up until his passing, which was in 2005. They were just put all their heart and soul into the experience for others.
And that's kind of where you are now. Since 2005, when Mr. Larry passed away, you have become kind of that cornerstone of not just the Merlo family and the Merlo name and reputation in that area of California, but your reputation with conservation and, like I said before, getting women and kids involved in the outdoors. That was your dad's vision. Your dad did that. He introduced new people to the outdoors, and the passion that he instilled in you is daily. I know you're a circus. I know that you're nonstop in business. I know that you got just texting and calls and nonstop responsibilities because you literally have a certain time frame window of opportunity to make your living in farming and farm management and hunting. So when you have that much responsibility and you still take the time that you do out of your days to make sure that little Joey and Rico are taken care of, not just your own kids, but kids all over the state of California, that's something that Larry wanted. And that's why his legacy lives on forever, because you're doing that on a daily basis. You agree?
Correct. And we had so much growing up. I mean, we had the best duck hunting and the best deer hunting and fishing and all that. And, now it's so hard for kids to get onto anything that is really truly high end or have lots of opportunity to take game or catch fish. And so these places that we have, whether they're leased or their own, we want to get kids on them. And that's why I just reach out to all these kids all the time. And I try to get women for their first experience involved, to try to get them into the hunting world. Try to hook them, especially if we can hook them in their early 20s, late teens. We get them in there, and then they'll continue that on. And my goal with that is that as these women, if you can hook them, and as they come into marriage, they get married. And if they married some guy that doesn't like to hunt, he's going to hunt. And then the kids will hunt because mom wants to hunt.
And the ideology behind that is, some people look at it and you're like, you see this attitude in different aspects of our country and in many ways is, why bring somebody new into something that we enjoy doing so much, and it's limited time, limited resources. The migration might not cooperate. You have droughts to worry about. You have too much rain in your area. The rivers get out, makes it tough. The birds spread out. There's so many things that go into dictating the success of a waterfowl hunting, not to mention your waterfowl outfitting service. A lot of people be like, dude, why are you bringing so many people around? They're going to be taken. That's not the point. The point is that in 20 years from now, when you're in your 80s, or I take that back, Rocque's going to be in his 70s. You're 50 right now. So in 20 years, when you're 70 years old and you're not hunting as much, that has to be continued by somebody. And Rico and Joey and those kids and the women that you're introducing, then those women that you introduce to it love it so much. They have their own kids. They get them into the outdoors. We have to make sure that that's continued. Everything from being a manufacturer of duck and goose hunting products, we want that new customer base. We want people with new blood coming into this sport. But more important than that, we want that next generation to carry on that tradition and that passion of the outdoors, because we are fighting for those freedoms every day. We have to have new blood pumped into it. And you've said it yourself. You go to a lot of banquets in Ducks Unlimited or CWA, there's a lot of old money involved. We got to get new people involved as far as volunteers, money coming in, the donors, the workers, everything that happens. We have to have that next generation involved, and that's why you do what you do.
And that's where we're seeing the work ethic part of it, where you talked about at the beginning. You're looking at these dinner committees. Usually there's a big group of younger individuals in their mid-20s that come in and take over a dinner, mid-20s to early 30s. We're not seeing that anymore. Not like when Brad and I were on the Chico committee of California Waterfowl Association. We took that over in 99, and we were going hard, and we had a big committee. It was about 13, 14 of us, and it was a lot of fun. You do not see committees transitioning into older committees and pushing them out anymore like that. You might see one or two individuals come, but then they'll ask their friends, and their friends don't mind coming to the dinner. They just don't want to put out the effort. And so That's why I think that providing opportunity, quality opportunity for kids and younger women will help us, bring those people into the sport. Because if they see if they can raise the money or earn the money, making that dollar and learning how to spend it right, you can get good hunting and fishing still today. But you have to invest. And you're just not going to go walk out to a refuge and shoot 7 ducks if you've not invested your time and energy and build your contacts and so forth.
And not to mention the opportunity that you provide them at a young age and getting them, I guess, honed in their skills.
Skill sets.
You can't just walk out into a public marsh and throw 12 decoys out and think you're going to kill a limit of, your 1 or 2 sprig and your mallards and a few widgeon. You have to, there's a lot of tricks to learn. And that's what I always see you consistently doing is, whether it's calling competitions, youth events, like the big event that Pat Kittles and Calusa throws, you're always involved. You're always donating. The bottom line is that I don't want to get off of Larry right now. We are going to go more into CWA and what you're doing with them as a board member and all the help and passion that you have for that conservation agency, which is truly an amazing story in itself with CWA. The more I've learned over the last, 36 months going into my 4th year being involved with you in the CWA, it blows my mind. Still, I will literally just be sitting in my office and think of egg salvage and how amazing it is. But we'll get into that. But I want to get to Brad real quick. Brad, you've known Rocque a long time. You guys went to college together. You knew each other before college. You've been running together consistently since your days at Chico State together, which we all know used to be in Playboy magazine as one of the top party schools in America.
Exactly.
There was a lot of fun had around that area, and you guys had fun, but you guys also understood that there was one thing that stands out when I'm around you guys is that family is everything. And talk to me a little bit about Larry and what he meant to you and some of your experiences with him, and just kind of give me I didn't know Larry. I've only known Rocque. I've known of Rocque since 2001, 2002, but I've only known Rocque as a friend for the last 3-4 years, and Larry's been gone since 2005. So just tell me a little bit about the man he was and what he meant to you.
Well, you mentioned the term salt of the earth, and Larry Merlo was pretty much a dictionary description of salt of the earth. I came up here, I grew up in Napa, California, and started more fishing and a little bit of hunting, and came up here to Chico State to go to college, and just fell in love with the outdoor life up here. And through mutual friends and friends that Chris Ravencroft and everything, I met Rocque Merlo. And, we come from different backgrounds and everything, but we didn't take us long to become good friends, and we hunted and fished together all through the valley. And through a lot of these trips, we were with Larry. And Rocque leaned on him a lot for knowledge of waterfowl, knowledge of fishing. I mean, Larry knew this valley like no other. And he was just, Rocky's a very prominent businessman, he's a very professional guy. Larry was just salt of the earth, one of the guys you meet one time and just feel like you've known him your whole life. And he was almost like another dad, and we'd go out and fishing, and hey, Dad and I are headed to the river, let's go. We'd be out there till dark, and just his knowledge of the valley. And I can remember several striper fishing trips with him and salmon fishing trips, and I got a chance to go out and hunt Rancho Esquan a couple times. Larry set that up for me, and just an amazing man. And
you talk about, salt of the earth with Larry, and, we all know Rocque is successful. He's growing a net worth. He's growing an empire down there. But here's, I remember this, is that nobody in that area to me has more money than Ken Hoffman. I don't know many people in the world. I've met a real life billionaire when I met Ken Hoffman.
Sure.
And you would never know he had a dime with the way he treated me.
Right.
And he looked at me at the dinner table at Rancho Esquan one night, and he said, nobody was richer than Larry Merlo.
Right.
And he goes, he didn't care how much money he had.
Right.
But because of what he was doing on a daily basis, he was fulfilled.
Yeah.
And I think that is really the money comes. And I think that's why Rocky's been successful. You've been successful. You see success because you find that niche and you find something that it really doesn't feel like you're going to work. And when Ken said that, I was like, man, Larry must have been loaded. And learning more about him, he wasn't. He didn't inherit money.
It wasn't a money thing.
It wasn't a money thing. He was fulfilled because of what he did on a daily basis.
Sure.
And when you have a real life billionaire financially, like Ken Hoffman saying that nobody was richer than Larry Merlo, that means something.
Right.
So if you take that attitude and you raise your kids like Rocky's doing with Rico and Joey right now, the same way that Clay does with Chase, I do with Alyssa, is that we are privileged. We're not going to hide it. We get to do a lot of neat things in life, but we work hard. And as long as you teach that responsibility and that dedication and that passion and that work ethic into the next generation, like Rocque does in the Waterfowl area, he takes a lot of young kids under his wing in the farming. He doesn't care if they go on to build their own farm. He works with them. Mm-hmm. So that was all the beginning of this podcast was dedicated because, we've dedicated episodes of The Fowl Life to Mr. Larry. There's a lot to be said out of us sitting at this table today is because of him. And if Rocque didn't treat me the way he did the first time he met me, and the reason he did that was because the way he was brought up by Mr. Larry. If he wouldn't have done that, we wouldn't be sitting here today. He took me under his wing. He's literally introduced me to everybody in the state of California, and the doors that have opened and the opportunity that's presented itself is amazing. So the moral of the story is Larry Merlo was rich. And
Sure.
Now, because of how he lived his life, there's a lot of different people that are successful because of that blood was ingrained in their veins.
Oh yeah.
And, when you talk about your guys' your friendship, and you brought up Ravencroft, he'll be here a little bit later. That's another guy. I would never have a talk with you and Rocque without talking about Ravencroft. And the only word that comes to my mind for that guy is love. Like, that was one guy that will literally stop what he's doing. And again, that is the heart of a hunter. And every time that he does something for me, he doesn't ask anything in return. And he's just like, hey, we're buds. That's what buds do for each other.
Exactly.
And I'm telling you, that's exactly what Larry would want. And I think that what Larry did as a man has rubbed off in one way or another with Rocque, with you, with Ravencroft, with Jackson. Everybody that I've met that runs in your guys' circle was influenced and affected by Larry Merlo.
I guarantee.
And I think that the reason that I talk about it so much is that I lost my dad at an early age at 54 years old, and he was the same way. I had no idea how famous, quote unquote famous, my dad was in this area until his funeral. Right. You just don't know. And when you get to that church and you standing room only, and there's 2,000 people in there, and you're going, wow, this is amazing. You really see what life's all about. My dad was a union plumber. He wasn't a millionaire. He raised 3 boys on maybe an $80,000 a year salary, with my mom working her butt off to get her master's degree in nursing. And every single thing that they did in life, every piece that they put together every day in life was for their kids. And now I look back at it and go, man, I'm the way I am because of my dad always said, you were put on this earth to work. And that's what Rocque does, is you work. And that's kind of what I wanted to get out of this whole message at the beginning of this deal is, why are people afraid to work? It's easy to say something about somebody. Hey, he's getting lucky, or he inherited that, or he's a whatever it is. Just work, right, Rocque?
Yep. Yeah, you got to get up in the morning. And, I live by Dad always said, Sunday's a Monday, a Saturday's a Thursday. 6 o'clock in the evening might as well be 3 o'clock. If you have something to do, you get it done. Because we hunted and fished a lot. And, in order to go at the times when it was right, you had to have your work done or caught up. And so if you took weekends off in our business, well, if it was right on a Tuesday and the hatch was going on Butte Creek, you couldn't go. You didn't have all your stuff done. So we juggled our time. We weren't travelers. We didn't go to Hawaii. We didn't go to the Bahamas. We didn't go to Europe until much later in life. But we had so many mini vacations on streams that you or I today, I saw trout in streams where you go hook 110 trout in an afternoon from 3 to 8 o'clock because the hatch was right, and it's 45 minutes from Chico, yep. Okay, on a stream. Mm-hmm. And those days, even though we have the stream still, we've gone through droughts and so in different things. The fisheries are suffering now. But I got to experience them with him in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. I experienced things that were unbelievable. You'd pay $500, $600 a day to experience a trip like that.
No, yeah.
And so these other hunting trips that we did, and we did it all local. It was all within a 100-mile radius of us. And, that's where we learned our skill sets. And that's why today it's, we have really good hunting where we're at today, and because of him and the leases we have and so forth, and we know the area. we're starting to venture out a little bit. I am going to get to go with you in July and to Argentina, which I never thought I'd ever go there. That sounds exciting.
Went to Colorado, a couple months
Colorado
ago
this
together.
year on a honker hunt, and that's now our mainstay for every Super Bowl Sunday. I'll be there. It was a blast.
Yeah.
Traveling outside, going to Mexico fishing and stuff like that. But it's because we work hard, lots of hours. There's no 40-hour work week in my business. It's unfortunate. We lose some really good people that come and want to work with us, but they want the 40, and it's just not part of our business. So
Yeah, being in that industry or any industry as a business owner, and you're looking to hire somebody, that's one of the main things I look for is you can't do a lot in 40 hours. And I'm not saying that they're going to be like me and just work nonstop every day, or I'm going to be like somebody that works that much. What I'm trying to say is that I want to look for somebody that just goes. They don't look at their paycheck. They look at the results that we're getting and the success that we're forming as a team. And in your market, when you have a good crop and the almonds or the almonds are in the bin and the dryer and the walnuts are in, and you go to market with them and it's a successful harvest, that team feels like a team, they won a championship. And that's what you look for in life, is somebody that puts so much into their craft. They don't ask, hey, is it time to leave yet? It's 5:00 and I'm out. They're like, it's like 4:59 and they're clocking out already. I look at that as kind of like, I get it. We all have our families. We all have life outside of work, but like we have employees here that literally it'll be 6, 7 o'clock at night and I'll come into the studio and Tom will still be sitting here just rocking it. And he'll ask for a vacation here and there, but it's very rare for them to say, hey, I'm going to clock out early and not work. And it's because we love what we're doing. We're creating some really cool things. And when you said that, what you said is that most people look forward to Friday at 5:00 for the weekend. I like to look forward to Sunday night because my wheels are turning. And I'm like, Monday, everybody's back on their work phones and everybody's in that vibe again. And I've been itching to get back at it. So I live for Sunday night so I can get ready to rock again during the week. And don't get me wrong. My daughter and my friends and my family and my fun are very important, but I just love work. And I think that if more people figured out that work is where it's at, that creates all that other stuff, like at 50 and being able to go to the Bahamas, you could have went to the Bahamas a long time ago, but you were working. Responsibility. And that's what it takes. It's not a free ride. So I love that about it. I love workers. Straight up. And, we could talk about that a lot, but I want to talk a little bit about what you just touched on, Rocque, and I'm going to ask Brad first. What does California offer? Why is it special? And if I want to fly there from North Dakota or Nashville, Tennessee to hunt, am I going to have a good experience?
I think so. I think when the conditions are right, I think the Butte Sink area and the Pacific Flyway, I think it's some of the best hunting you can find in the whole United States. And you've got moderate temperatures. You're not freezing in the wintertime, and it's pretty comfortable. And there's just so many different. We've got such a goose population and different marshes and rice fields, and there's a lot of you can hunt some timber too. There's a lot of variations on what you can do in California.
And it's typically in the top 3, I believe, in total waterfowl harvest in the country, with right up there with Louisiana, Arkansas for total ducks. I'm not talking just one certain species of duck. I'm talking total harvest. There's a lot of duck hunters and goose hunters in the state of California.
Sure.
There is a lot of opportunity for fishing and turkeys and blacktail and mule deer and antelope and predators. And then you get into upland game and you get into waterfowl. It's an unbelievable state, which has a rap of being Los Angeles and traffic and smog and the beaches and Rodeo Drive. But if you get up by, Chico and North, you get up by Cedarville, you get up by Honey Lake, California is amazing. I'm not saying the rest of California. I love San Diego. I love Los Angeles. Everybody's like, I hate I-5 traffic. I do too. It's a burden, right? But LA is awesome. I love being down there. It's just a cool vibe down there. And I just, when you touched on that, I just think of like where Rocque does a lot of his goose hunting. You drive 40 miles from there, Rocque. The difference between the landscape of the Butte Sink and where you hunt specs at, I mean, it's night and day, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a big transition as you go to the west. Once you cross over that river, the Sacramento River, when you cross and go to the west, it all changes over there. It's there's less water, more dry rice fields over there, and the greenery's out over there. A lot of things are treeing up. A lot of orchards are being planted now. So, but you were touching on some of the places in California. When you're in Chico or at the Sutter Buttes, you're 3 hours to San Francisco. Okay, I mean you're on the coast. Below that we're 6 hours, 7 hours to Los Angeles. So, I mean it is. I mean we can get places pretty quick in our state. And our fisheries are really strong. Brad and I, our some of our fondest memories were Brad and I together on the Sacramento River. Salmon fishing in
The wolf pack.
The wolf pack.
Wait, I got whoa. Who was guiding you guys?
We were guiding other people.
We guided.
Okay, whose boat was you? Whose boat was it?
We each had design concepts, and we're talking 99 and 2000, 98, 2002. The fishery was super strong. We had 100 and some odd thousand salmon coming up the river, and we'd go out there after work. Sometimes we get out there at 6:30 in the evening, sometimes 7, sometimes 3 o'clock, just depending on what we had that day. And we'd get out there in the afternoon and just slaughter the salmon. We'd put 4 guys in the boat, have 8 fish within an hour.
When you say salmon, which species are we talking about?
Chinooks, the king salmon.
The king salmon. And if I'm out on the river with you guys and I'm a buddy and I say I want to catch a Chinook, what are you going to hand me? What weight rod, what kind of line, and what are they hitting on?
Back in the day when the numbers were really high, we did a lot of back trolling of flatfish with a sardine wrap and a crawdad wrap, that type thing. There was so many numbers in the river back then. They would stack up in the holes, and salmon aren't feeding when they're coming up the river out of the ocean. So they're aggressive fish. You're trying to get a flash in front of them, something to trigger their instinct, something to get them to attack. And when they're in large numbers like that, they're irritable fish, and they go after things. So that was our mainstay. We drag row too, and back bounce row a little bit, but mostly back then it was flat fishing, and it was really successful. I mean, I had several clients tell me that that fishery was stronger than Alaska. They had been to Alaska before,
So what happened?
Drought years, majorly. Some mismanagement in the state. Don't want to point fingers, but the California Fish and Game tried some things where they took the fingerlings down towards the bay to release them because they're worried about predation, of the babies going down. The problem with that is those fingerlings don't imprint on the river, and it's been proven that it's kind of a myth that a salmon will go back to exactly where he was born when they travel back from the ocean up to the river system. Not necessarily true. They go to where the water conditions are right. So if these fish aren't imprinted on the river like last year, that was supposed to be a lot better run coming back. They came in through the bay system, the Sacramento River system, and then the water conditions were better on the American and the Feather, and they branch off and go up there. So the last couple of years has been probably the worst couple of years I've seen in the last 20 years on that river. I mean, used to be a guarantee.
Does it ever have potential to come back?
Oh yeah, it does. I mean, nature will find a way. I think. I think man might have been a little too involved with that. You let nature take over, it'll find its way back. We need good water conditions, good rain years. It's a cycle, and I'm fully expected to come back.
So, Rocque, you talk on this now, and that's the Chinook and that's the king salmon. The other specialty that you guys have shown me on that river, that fishery, we call that river a fishery because it can be awesome.
Sure.
And stripers is the other species that you guys have concentrated on over the last 15, 20 years. Now the same question, Rocque, I get on your boat and you're going to hand me what for a striper? I know there's different applications and different approaches, but what would your go-to be for me to catch a healthy striper?
Well, there's multiple ways to do it, but my preference is trolling. And again, more of the artificials. We would troll an imitation 6-inch fish, broken back. And then we put a little teeny teaser tail on the back of it, some scents on it. And then we would troll the river at about 2.2 miles an hour. And then depending on the depth that the fish were in, we would add some weight or not, take some weight off. But that's been our mainstay. That works very well. Like right now is prime time for the stripers. both on the Sac and the Feather River. The stripers will come up the Feather for a couple weeks, and then those conditions on that water will change, and they know that it's not good spawning water. They'll zip back down to the Sac, and then the Sac will load up. So for the next, let's say, 3 to 4 weeks, we're going to have a lot of stripers in the Sac and the Feather. We'll go out in the evenings or early mornings. And as the river starts to clear from the snow melt or the rains, as we start to clear, the fish will start shying away from the plugs because the stripers are coming up and they're just kind of cleaning house on all bait fish that are in the river. And they're, again, predatory, and they're trying to protect their spawning beds, so where they're going to lay their eggs. And stripers are unique because they don't spawn in gravel like other fish do, salmon and steelhead. They actually spawn on the surface of the water, and the males come up and hit the females, knock the eggs out of her, and then they fertilize them, and then the baby stripers hatch as they're floating down the river. So as those stripers come up, and schools are killing and cleaning everything up that they can to protect their young. So as the season progresses along, the water will clear, and then we'll go do some things like drifting minnows, and we'll fish at night more. And that's when it really gets exciting for us.
Night fishing?
Night fishing.
That's a lot of fun. Well, stripers are predominantly a nocturnal fish.
They like to be the
bigger fish.
When you say nocturnal, that same as like a coyote or a white-tailed deer or a mallard duck feeding at night or being active at night.
Yes, very active. Yeah.
And so they just rest in the heat of the day. They'll find some shade and just sit under a rock and just be lazy as heck.
Those 15 to 25 pound fish this time of the year will tend not to be real aggressive in the middle of the day when the light's out, because we understand there's boats running up and down the river and so forth. Once 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock hits, the river calms down, everybody goes home. There's only a few diehards out there, such as ourselves, and it gets real interesting from 10 on at night.
Why would you catch a striper though? Do they fight good? Because you guys don't eat them, do you?
Pound for pound, they fight better than a salmon. Me personally, I think they're best eating freshwater fish in California.
I said that in a sarcastic way because they're awesome.
They're unbelievably good eating.
Now you just said they're your favorite freshwater fish
on the West Coast. I have had a chance.
Are you including Alaska and Hawaii and halibut in that statement?
Best freshwater fish.
You're saying that, okay, freshwater fish.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're saying in the Western United States, in freshwater,
yes, that
the striper is better than
anything I've ever eaten. I don't eat a lot of trout. We do mostly catch and release with trout, but
So the other freshwater fish in America that have a great edible reputation are
sturgeon,
walleye, sturgeon,
yes,
crappie,
yes,
speckled trout in Louisiana, redfish in Louisiana. Those are the 5 that come to mind. You're saying the striper is as good as any of those, even though they're in different parts of the country?
In my personal opinion, from what I've heard, it's a mild...
Blackened, fried, grilled, anything?
Anything.
Just a lot of lemon and some pepper, or what?
It's amazing. You don't even hardly have to season a striped bass.
Well, we've made pots of striper chowder, and we did.
What do you mean I made?
You made the striper chowder.
That sounds. Hey, whoa!
It's really
I've known
good.
you this long, and when can we have some?
It's good. I have the recipe at home.
Wait, but to do that, we're gonna have to get some fish from somebody.
Yeah, well, we're up here.
Should we call Jack? No, we can call Jackson because I know y'all ain't catching them.
No, we're Sunday. We'll be back on it Sunday afternoon.
I would love to try that.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Really?
Next week's a big week. Yeah. So next week, right now, the way the conditions are, the fish have started. The rivers are clearing up. The fish are coming in right now. It's just starting. We've had an amazing sturgeon run this year. The sturgeon run have been off the chart. A lot of fish caught. The river with the heavy rains that we had, the 40 inches of rain we had last year, and the heavy snowpack. It doesn't take long, as Brad said earlier, for these rivers to cycle from these droughts. We went through 4 years of drought. It hurt all the fisheries: trout, salmon, bass, doesn't matter. So the duck populations, the pheasants. Last year was an amazing winter. This year we thought we were going into a drought, and we've actually turned out to be an amazing March and April. So the weather came at the right time. The snowpack, we got some decent snowpack. The lakes are filling up. The rivers are high and running good. The streams are running good. the grass is growing, so our nesting habitat is going to be off the hook for the ducks in the upland. There's a lot of little bugs being hatched for the ducklings, so they're going to have a good, strong food source. I'm optimistic that this is going to be a good year.
It's going to help everything.
Would you say the main reason of optimism right now, we were talking about this in our state of Nevada the other day, is the late rains really help us up here in a lot of our fisheries, a lot of our horn growth on big game animals, elk, deer, antelope, sheep. It seems like we've been getting more precipitation in March throughout last month. I think it was like number 3 or 4. You guys know Tom Rashashin. He's our master skier on staff here. He works with Rocque quite a bit. Tom, as far as what's going on with our local snowpack right now, are we on schedule? Are we behind the times? Or what are we going to be? What do we have to look forward to from the Sierras as a whole, from the ski resorts all the way down to like the Feather River in that area?
Well, I don't know if I'm fully qualified, but last year we had record-breaking snow. I think we had over 800-something inches up at Mount Rose. This year we had a terrible winter. We had probably next to nothing January and February until March really hit, and then we finally started to, come around for this winter. So I'm kind of hoping that this late spring is going to bring the water that we're going to desperately need, because I think they said that last winter we came out of this crazy drought that
Came
we've
out
been
of
in.
it,
Yeah.
Tom, the reason that I wanted you to come over here is that we start talking about fishing, and I'm not going to sit here and say I'm real optimistic about going down to Chico, and we haven't even been invited yet for next week, but I'm thinking that
Here we go.
because I just heard Rocque say that Rocque just said that next week is the week. Did you hear him?
Yeah,
So
I did hear that. Rocky.
Okay, so let's assume that we go, Tom, because I think we're going to get the invite, because it's going to be awesome. Even if they're nocturnal, we can stay up late, drink a Red Bull. Rocque, are you going to guarantee that we catch a fish on you or Brad Forsythe's boat next week if we drive 3 hours, or if you send your plane? One of the two. I mean, I'm just dropping a hint there.
There's never a guarantee.
We do really well when you guys aren't around.
Yeah.
I think it might be
Yeah.
maybe live a little cleaner life, do some things, pray. Catholic, the enrollment
You're
in
saying
Catholic churches is down. Maybe hit the church
Yeah.
Sunday.
Wow, you're saying that I don't have a good relationship with God. I'm not living right, and that's the reason we don't. We literally have been on their boats, Tom. Tell me if I'm wrong. Been going down the river, and they'd be like, right here is the spot. We'll go over it, troll it. We'll look back. The boat behind us will be hooked up, just hammering one in that spot.
That did happen.
That did
I do
happen.
remember seeing that.
Yeah, that was one night. Yeah.
Yeah, the bandit crew has been,
That was only the one time they came.
Us, yeah.
But I just want to get some pictures of fish. And what do we got to do, Tom?
Tom's a really good photographer.
He's really good with
You know
Photoshop.
what we'll
He's
do?
good, yeah.
He's
Tom should
Photoshop.
make that
We'll
work.
put Chad on Ravencroft's boat, and then we'll just take Tom and watch what happens.
Okay.
Tom's clean living.
Yeah.
Dude, my nephew caught a 7.2 pound brown at Almanor on
Yes.
Ravencroft's
Yes.
boat
Yes,
last
he
year.
did. Maybe Ravencroft's the ticket.
Maybe he is clean
All right.
living.
Well,
Maybe we should let him in the wolf pack.
He's not in it anymore.
This was way back in the day, before the Hangover came out.
Yeah,
We were
96.
We had T-shirts and everything.
97 hats.
Wolf pack fishing, yeah.
Pfizer's.
Tom, you've been at Rockies with us quite a bit over the last 3 years at camp down there. You don't hunt. I mean, it's no secret. You're not a hunter. You've been with us for 5 years now, but
I've been dropping hints that I've been trying to go, but
do you really want to come?
yeah.
Well, let's do it at Rockies. We'll lose you know what at Rockies this year.
Yeah.
But you've been hearing us talk a little bit today. I mean, it's awesome. Just the whole aura of that place is cool down there, isn't it?
Yeah, it truly is special. I really, honestly, my only experience of Chico and that whole Northern California Central Valley was going to party with my college buddies. So I only knew Chico from college parties and the smell that you get after a couple nights down there. But now I just see that there's a lot of beauty in the rivers and the farming communities. There's a whole lot more to it down there. So, yeah, it's been a pleasure to meet you guys and get to experience what you guys have grown up with.
You
We've
like
had-
Fifth Street Steakhouse too, right?
The Fish Street Steakhouse.
That's one of his favorite spots. Fifth Street Steakhouse in your shop. Yeah.
I would go. I've eaten pretty much every steakhouse in Omaha. I'd put Fish Street, and I'm not saying those are the best. I'm not that guy that's gonna go, that's the best steak ever, but I've never had a bad meal there. I've eaten the fish. I've eaten every steak they offer. We were there last week for turkey camp, and Rocque got us some steaks that night. I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, it's legit steakhouse.
It's amazing. Yeah, they did a great job there.
Who is the restaurateur there? Who I know Eric, but who owns that joint?
Kevin Riley and Nick. What's Nick's last name?
Kevin and Nick.
Kevin and
then
Nick.
there's Mike.
They own bars and restaurants all through Chico for years. Very successful guys. Very
Mike
successful.
Weir and
Yeah.
There's
They
a
started off
few
with
of them.
Riley's bar, Kevin Riley's. Then they had Frankie's restaurant. They've had now they just remodeled LaSalle's, made it into a high-end restaurant.
Tom, we're getting ready to start a cooking deal that we're doing tonight with Traeger, and Tom's got to go out because he's going to film it. He's our resident filmer here today. But before he leaves, I wanted to just make sure that we're all on the same page. 1, will we be invited next week? 2, whose boat will we be on? And 3, will we catch a striper? Or is it salmon next week?
It's
Stripers.
It's stripers right
All
now.
right.
What are the guarantees here?
We're
Yeah.
catching stripers
What
next
is-
week.
That's a big guarantee. You know what? If they're in there and the conditions are right,
You just said the
I would
conditions are
guarantee.
right.
I guarantee you.
He
All
just
It's
said
on.
there's.
right, we'll
It'll be
guarantee
on.
you. We'll guarantee you.
It's on.
We will guarantee you'll have fun.
It'll be next weekend. They're all
25-pounder.
This is not the right time of year for the big ones.
Yeah,
This
a
is
little later for
this
that.
the big school of males come up. They're anywhere from 3 to 6 pounds. A lot of the smaller ones.
3 to
Those are
8,
the best
yeah.
eating ones, actually.
Yeah, we don't want the big ones anyways.
The big hens we usually release.
Yeah.
Conservation.
You should, right?
Conservation.
You should.
Yeah, they produce so many million babies, and the bigger fish really aren't as good to eat. They've been in the system longer. They're kind of mushy. The smaller males are the better ones to eat.
Well, that's what I want to accomplish next week. If we do get the invite and this guarantee comes into fruition and Tom gets to take a couple pictures and doesn't have to take a picture of us standing there with our arms like this and then Photoshop a striper into there.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that we put it on that Traeger or however we're going to do it. And I definitely, and Tom, we need to try some of this chowder.
Oh yeah.
I can hook you up with the chowder. It's good.
Ooh.
I want the recipe too. I'd like
No,
to
that
try
would
to
be
make
good.
it.
If we can, we'll pop some.
It's a high-end clam chowder recipe.
Sunday
and
we'll
then
go
use
get them for
substitute
Monday, and
the
then
clam.
we'll make it when they're
Yeah.
here. We'll have a bowl of a pot of it.
Sounds good.
See, and
You're
Chad, you maybe you can give them some pointers, or it's a lot like duck hunting, where if it's slow with the birds, you've got to figure out play a B.
Camp life.
Camp
right?
life.
Yeah, camp life.
And that's usually what we have at Rocky. Only during fishing season. I've been on several spec hunts where we just manhandle them and it's 10 a day. But as far as fishing, yes, I would think that you guys would probably want to take up golf when it comes to fishing.
We've had our days, Chad. Trust me. We have had our good days.
All right, Tom, thank you very much. I can smell the Traegers going. I know Clay's out there. Clay, how's it coming out there? Smelling pretty good. Pretty good. All right, we're gonna move on here a little bit. I want to keep talking on really how Rocque and I met was through the CWA. There's a lot of CWAs out there, but the California Waterfowl Association, and I want to talk about this because people have seen it. Our viewers, our customers have seen it highlighted on the episodes of the Fowl Life through our social media platforms. Just real quick, Rocque, I don't want to, you know way more about the CWA than me, but what is the CWA and what is it doing right now?
CWA's California Waterfowl Association. It's a nonprofit, 501c3. Their main purpose is wetlands, restorations, developing wetlands, protecting hunting heritage, and giving opportunities for others to hunt on whether it be public land, private land. We have an amazing hunt program. But they're there for the waterfowler, and when you look at California waterfowl, you look at the name, you immediately just think of duck hunting. But when you develop a wetland, there are so many other species that have to be come into play that are protected or they get a home, and so just saying it's about ducks and geese is really not correct. They help with many things like clean water infiltration into the groundwater. A clean, healthy wetland is a great filtration system for rainwater to recharge groundwater. And those are the kinds of things that really aren't ever talked about. We talk about ducks and, a marsh.
Yeah, most people looking in from the outside would say you're developing a duck property, go out there and kill a bunch of ducks, and that's far from the truth.
That is far from
the amount of benefits that a duck or a goose gets out. Yeah, they get nutrition out of it. They get a place to breed. They get a place to lay their eggs. They get a place to live, right? But the shorebirds, the rodents, every other animal. There's so many animals that benefit off of a wetland that's built.
Yep.
And your dad, Larry, we talked about him being a pioneer. Ken Hoffman, what you're doing with your properties right now, and what the California Waterfowl Association is doing throughout the entire state with 24,000 members, hundreds and hundreds of volunteers, a state-based agency that is on the national map as being a leader in conservation in the Western United States. A lot of things start, when I say this, Rocque, you take it from here, and then I'll ask Brad along the same lines of this question, but a lot of initiatives, a lot of politics, a lot of bills that go into the legislature they start in California. It's a battleground state. What does that mean, a battleground state?
Well, we have a gentleman named Mark Henley. Mark is he runs our government affairs side, the California Waterfowl Association. He's at the Capitol daily, working with the opposite side, the Democrats and some Republicans. We're helping them when they introduce a bill, whether it be an ammo bill, a shot bill, a hunting regulation bill. We're there to try to help show them the facts. And believe it or not, a lot of them, even though they'll pass some really crazy bills, they'll put them on the floor, they'll listen to Mark because CWA has done the homework. We have the hardened facts that are indisputable. And when Mark presents them, a lot of times he's able to get the language changed where the author is happy that his bill's being brought forward, but it's in a language that's not impacting the hunter. Okay? He may get his point across where it's like a magazine ban or something like that, but we go from 15 rounds in a magazine, and California is very liberal, so they're passing some pretty strict gun laws that we've seen. But we'll save the deer hunter's rifle magazine of 3 to 4. Okay, and so Cal Waterfowl's been on the leading edge to a lot of that, and we just developed a pack and a C3 pack, and so we're going head to head at the Capitol now. We have money and collateral to try to help fight some of these bills that we just can't talk them through. And it is a lot of the new legislation that is tested in California. And if it passes here, then a lot of your Eastern Shore states look at them and then they bring them over to their states. And then they try to get it to a nationwide.
When you talk about eastern states, and we've worked with Camp Woody in the Carolinas, and there is a Nevada Waterfowl Association. There's something called the Colorado Waterfowl Association. I don't know if I'm privy to all of them, but I've never seen anything match up to on a state. Ducks Unlimited, Delta on a national level, they're legit. RMEF, NWTF, Mule Deer Foundation, Pheasants Forever, Quail Unlimited. There's lots of strong conservation agencies that we have to be involved in. Even if you don't hunt quail, supporting Quail Unlimited makes sense, right? CWA, I'd love to see so many national members get involved because of that reason, that a lot of things start out here in California and move eastward. And when I go into the headquarters in Rockland, is it in Rockland or Roseville? Roseville, California, the headquarters of CWA, you have a president named John Carlson. You have a marketing team. You have a publishing team. You have a sales team. You have a magazine and an editor. You have Mark Henley and what he does. You have Mr. Jake. You have so many different individuals that are full-time employees. This is a real life it's a real life business. With guys like yourself and John Carlson and Scott waking up every day with conservation and more importantly, not more importantly, I shouldn't say more importantly, but hunters' rights. They are for the hunter and for the gun owner. And Brad, being from California and being so passionate about the outdoors, you've been to a lot of banquets. You've supported CWA for a lot of years, your relationship with Rocque. What does that mean for you to be a local, an inhabitant of California, to know that something like CWA exists and more importantly has your back?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I through Rocque and other friends there, I got on the Chico committee for California Waterfowl, basically because my love of hunting. And once I got involved, I was on the committee for 10 years or so. Rocque was the chairman of that committee. And what you don't see, yes, CWA has got all these employees that work hard every day, but there's thousands and thousands of guys like myself that were volunteers on these committees that we spent countless hours putting together these functions to raise money for the good cause, for the hunters' rights, for the conservation, all that kind of stuff. And I was just, after you're involved for a while, you really start seeing the big picture, and it's pretty impressive. It's I've been involved a little bit with Ducks Unlimited too, and that's more on a national level. But the heart and soul, of the California hunter and stuff, like you say, we've got all these fights with legislation over hunters' rights and everything. Now the world's getting crazy with gun control and all these things that are happening. Our heritage growing up hunting and stuff, you want to protect that. And you touched on it earlier about the kids involved in hunting, women involved in hunting. That's our future. We need to teach them hunter safety, teach them the love of the outdoors to keep going for generation to generation. And I think it's important with the women involved in hunting. Not only does it have them teach their kids, but to have, the opposite sex voice. The duck hunting or hunting in general has been known as a male dominated sport in the past or whatever. And you get these women.
CWA has awesome women's camps.
Oh, sure.
That are just for women.
Yeah.
It's called Bo, Becoming an Outdoor Woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're a huge part of that.
Right. We took Bo over 3 years ago, and we absorbed it into us. It was its own outside entity. And they came to us because of what you mentioned earlier with our marketing side and our staff. And we absorbed them into California Waterfowl Association. And Bo truly is standing on its own. It's got its own committee and so forth. And I mean, the amount of women that are in it, they have like 11 or 12 personal all women events now where they can all this coming year. I think they have 8 hunts where they can all get together on various high-end ranches or duck clubs. It's an awesome organization, part of CWA. And I'm glad that we did take it on and start it up.
And when you say take it on, a lot of people ask me, why are you giving so much attention to CWA or why are you playing so much favorite? They must be paying you a ton of money. No, they're not paying us anything. We have a really good relationship with the CWA in the means of Bandit and Avery and Greenhead Gear. We are a corporate sponsor. Yep. Through, your youth camps such as Grizzly or Rancho Esquan, working with kids, supplying waders and apparel for men and women. We've supplied, working with Holly and Bo, we've supplied a lot of women's apparel for the camps. But the reason we're involved with CWA is simple, and this is what I think about all the time. If I'm a duck hunter in central Kansas and I'm waking up at 5 a.m. to go set up a decoy spread, whether it's a dry field on winter wheat to hunt lesser Canada geese or going to a marsh to hunt mallards or the Arkansas River to hunt mallards, I want to get the message out there that while you're doing that, John and Rocque and Scott and Brad and all these guys in California are waking up and they're going to work or board meetings or to Capitol Hill in Sacramento with Mark Henley. And I've hunted with Senator Berryhill, Mr. Tom Berryhill down there. There's guys that are fighting for our rights. When we're out laughing and high-fiving and drinking coffee and looking at that dust in our rearview mirrors and watching that sun come up and watching those mallards pitch into our decoy spread and listen to our dog whimper because he's so excited for the first flock to come in and watching our dog shake when they bring that first mallard in. Every single aesthetic value that we get out of this masterpiece of being a waterfowl hunter, we have to understand that when that alarm clock goes off at 5 o'clock or 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning Pacific time, CWA volunteers, full-time employees, presidents, marketing managers, vice presidents, CFOs, CEOs are waking up to go to work for our benefit. across the board, across the country. And we have to understand that that has more value than anything that what this agency of CWA is providing. That is why Fowl Life is involved. That is why Bandit and Avery and all of our brands are involved with CWA, because it makes sense. And if it's so easy to wake up and go set a decoy spread and kill a bunch of mallards. A monkey can kill ducks. I've always said it. They have a brain this big. We're not open heart surgeons here. We're not fighting overseas for our freedoms. We're a duck hunter. We have to find something in the bigger picture. And I'm not trying to say this is drama and we're going to be all dramatic about duck hunting and hear this scary music come up and go, oh, it's 4:00 in the morning and it's no. I'm simply saying that let's not take it for granted that there's some badasses out in California that are kicking ass daily for hunters' rights, not just waterfowlers. It goes across the board. It's bigger than that. So when you're a 21-year-old kid in Kansas or a 40-year-old man in Arkansas and you're going out in your boat to hunt ducks in the flooded timber, we have to understand that that could all be taken away from us in a heartbeat. As fast as we get to wake up and go do it, we could not get to wake up and go do it. Our rights are under siege every day. And again, it's not drama, it's reality. And CWA wakes up knowing that it is reality. And they put all these different implementations and all these pieces of that puzzle in place to make sure that that kid in Kansas and that 40-year-old man in Arkansas get to go do what they do.
Well, there was an assemblyman when they were bringing up the semi-auto bill last year. They were his exact words were he brought in a Benelli SB2. He brought in a Browning A5 that was from, 20 years ago or something like that. He brought in an Ethica pump, and then he brought in a double barrel from about 1935. And his story was that why do we need pumps and semi-autos when we were doing just fine in 1930 with a double barrel like that? So he was trying to, convince the legislature that we didn't need semi-autos. So if that bill would have passed, it got killed. And Brown even said he was going to veto it if it came to him. But that's their mentality. They're saying, okay, you have your Second Amendment right. Okay, you have all that. We're not going to argue that. But when all those gun laws and all that was being developed back when, we didn't have these SB3s, these really trick shotguns now that we like as a waterfowler. And so, in CWA, Mark Henley was right in that fight, and he was saying everything evolved, so his exact words were right behind it. Goes, look at the automobiles today. Look at motorcycles. Look at your internet. Everything is ever evolving. We just need to learn to manage it, and we need to learn to be conservationists and protect it. And so, when he gave his side to the story, he came off much more intellectual than the other guy, and it died. The bill died, which we all knew it was. But I only say that because there is that small majority, and what we're seeing right now in the union is a lot of attack on us. So we have to be thinking ahead of them all the time. And here in California, honestly, our office isn't very big. We wish it was bigger. Our staff has tight. They're not. There should be more. We're tight on money sometimes because we're spending so much on a bill that comes, and so we're having more fundraisers. We're trying to expand. We're moving into Southern California this next year with the brand. And so we're doing things to try to generate more revenue because we see the bigger battle coming here in the state.
But aside from the politics and all that stuff too, gun control, that's a national thing. But I think California waterfowl, among anything else, yes, they're doing a great job of fighting that fight. But duck hunting is like no other sport worth it. It's a family thing. It's a camaraderie thing, friendship. It's fun. It's not just about going out and harvesting ducks. It's about the times we have in the blinds and the fun we have and all that stuff. And I think that's the basis for the fight is to protect that. We need to have that hunting heritage. It's not just about gun control. It's about we want our kids and the future generations to be able to enjoy doing it like we do.
100%. And that's where I was going with that kid in Kansas and that 40-year-old in Arkansas is that it's a gem. It's a national freaking treasure to be able to wake up and say you're an American hunter. And that's why I just brought Alex Crosby, and a lot of people have listened to the podcast before and watched our shows at Dead Dog Walking and Foul Life, and Rocque and Brad have both met Crosby before. Crosby's, he's very involved with that aspect that you just talked about, Brad, as far as where would we be if we didn't have development and innovation and forward thinking, right? The spinning wing decoy, which Mr. Terry Demon at Mojo has made worldwide famous, but it was derived and invented right in your guys' backyard.
It was.
Right?
It was.
Look
Yeah,
at good old-
a gentleman there in District 10 built it one day, and a couple of weeks later, my partner went and was told, "You got to come and check this thing out." I went. Mike went and saw it in action in the rice field. Mike brought it to me the next day. He showed it to me in the rice field. I couldn't believe what occurred.
Yeah.
We took it and showed it to my dad. My dad started making it. My dad sat in the shop. We called him Santa's little elf. Larry sat in the shop for 2.5 weeks and made 25 of these things for all of his friends down at the Duck Club. We all got them, all of us kids. We were trying to get this little motor out of Texas. It was innovation. And then who was the guy over there in D10 that got the patent on it?
Oh yeah.
Robert Matthews,
yeah.
Our chef.
Yeah, that's the old.
Greg Cornell.
Yeah.
They ended up getting a patent on it, and then those guys held the patent on the spinning wing, and then they're the ones that sold the patent to Mojo.
Right.
Yeah.
So Alex has been on duck hunts with us. He's been on goose hunts. He predator hunts all the time. We've had this argument or this discussion on the topic of, do you use an electronic collar or do you mouth call? Do you use a Mojo or do you go old school? What is old school? I mean, if we're old school, then let's go back and shoot a bow and arrow at them, or let's go back and shoot a slingshot at them, or throw a rock at them. Everything that we use to better ourselves as a hunter is because we're humans and we have that brain that can forward think. So Crosby, talk a little bit about your experiences in the marsh as far as duck and goose hunting, and then I want you just to give a quick comparison of what Brad just said. What is better to you, walking a chucker mountain or being in a duck blind with that camaraderie and that ribbon going on? What does it mean for you to be able to have the opportunity to do both? You're a member of the CWA. You support CWA, and you know it through what we've done here with the Foul Life. What does that mean to have that support, to be able to go to a chucker mountain or go to a marsh, and what do you prefer?
Wow, that's a tough one. I think every predator hunter, big game hunter, chucker hunter is jealous of the camaraderie aspect of duck hunting. And there's no question about it. They're both equally great and fun and all that, but I would be a liar if I said I wasn't jealous about that sausage cooking on the pan while you're sitting there waiting for a duck to come in and, ribbing with your friends and having coffee. When you get up and you go chucker hunting, it's usually a bottle of water and a granola bar in your vest. And when you get back to the truck, you can talk and all that. But when you're out there, you're by yourself for the most part, maybe with a dog, maybe walking with another guy. But for the most part, it's a solo thing. And, the point of being out with your friends and all that gets a little bit lost in translation there, because typically one guy goes one way, one guy goes the next. And I always joke around, that, man, I got left, I'm up here by myself. And it doesn't happen when you're duck hunting. So I do think that you truly hardcore duck hunters, like the three guys sitting at this table, probably have us all beat, when it comes to camaraderie and friendship and the fun that you really do get to have in a duck blind.
Just on that same aspect, just talk a little bit about, does an agency like a conservation organization like CWA and the ones you're involved here in Reno with MBU, you've never killed a sheep, have you? I know your mom has. I know your dad has. Me and you haven't been lucky enough to draw a tag, but we still support MBU, right?
Oh, 100%.
Why do we? Why do we support the CWA? Why do we do it? That's the message that I want to get across here is it's not that hard to support them. And on the next step is getting involved. I know you get involved in quite a bit of Boys and Girls Club, Alex, and things that you do with different charitable organizations. Why do we? Why would you? What is the benefit? It's because we want that confidence that somebody has our back, right?
Well, it's 100%. I think it's about having a bigger voice. I can stand on my soapbox all I want, talk about how great the NBU is and how great CWA is and the great things they do for us. We've got to have a voice, whether it be in the legislature, whether it be at a big dinner, whether it be in a duck blind. You've got to have that educated voice that, Rocque was talking about, a bill being passed or not passed for gun control. Us hunters need that bigger voice. We can justify everything we do to each other, but if you don't have somebody in that house, in, your Senate seats, in a Senate person's ear, talking about these bills from our point of view, many things will go through that we don't like, that we don't support. It's because, plain and simple, we didn't have a voice there. And it happens across the board. All you guys could speak about it on regular business terms. Tax cuts, tax raises, things like that. Is you've got to have a representation there. And it's not, logistically sound for 1,000 hunters to show up at every, bill session or every workshop that's out there. So you support a CWA type organization. You either give to or give your time to, and they become your voice and your sounding board and your ear, so to speak, for these types of topics.
Would you say, Brad, that the bigger voice that Crosby's touching on is a necessity right now? You've touched on where our country's going and what we're experiencing right now in the battlefield of California, the battleground state of California.
Oh, definitely.
The gun rights, the hunting rights, the heritage being threatened. What is it going to take? You and Rocque answer this. What is it going to take for everybody to get involved and support it? Let's say it's $30 a year to be a member of the CWA. That $30, first of all, helps because it adds up. Then you got the guys that are going to have the initiative to be self-starters and be a volunteer, help with the banquets, all that. How do we get that message out there? How do we have somebody? The reason I have Crosby here is because Crosby, he gets it. He understands it. He hunts. He has a huge passion for it. He knows the industry. He knows what we're up against. Hunters can't take it for granted that it's going to be here tomorrow. We've said that already, but how do we get people involved? What is it going to take for somebody to go, yeah, I'm a member of Ducks Unlimited because they're national? Well, yeah, Ducks Unlimited does a lot locally in a lot of different states. They work in conjunction with CWA, as a matter of fact. Mr. Paul Bonderson, who was the president last year of DU, has Bird Haven right there in the Butte Sink, and he's a member of CWA and works hand in hand with CWA. What is it going to take to get somebody involved? How would you get how do we get new blood rolling?
Well, I mean, it's like what we've been doing. We have to include the young kids. And I mean, if you're a duck hunter and you duck hunt avidly and you're on a street where you're in a subdivision and you have some kids down the street that you think that might be interested in it, you need to go talk to their parents and check it out. See if they want to go shoot. See if they want to go apply and take the class for their, hunting license. Go to a CWA camp if you're in California. I think that if you're out of state and listening to this podcast, I think you need to sit there and put a little bit of time and effort in. I think you need to put a hunt package together and go, you know what? I'm going to go put this hunt package together so CWA can, put it up at one of their auctions, and I'm going to stipulate it. It's two parents or three adults and a couple kids, 3 and 3 or 2 and 2. And they can auction that off at one of our banquets. Those hunts like that are out of the area go for a lot of money. And that's a great way to sit there and be part of, the cause. Unfortunately, a lot of folks in California do not know where to go hunt outside of the state. They wouldn't have the foggiest idea except for opening up a book and seeing something in Arkansas or wherever. And most of those times when you go call on one of those duck camps back there or lodges, they're booked. Okay, so I know there's opportunities in like our friends that hunt in Oklahoma. If I didn't have met some individuals from Oklahoma, I wouldn't have known what the guys in Oklahoma, shoot for ducks and geese and cranes and all that. I'm looking forward to doing that one day, going on one of them ranches. So there's ways. Brad, what do you think?
Even if you're not a hunter, even if you're not into guns, even if you're against guns, I mean, California waterfowl, aside from the gun control, look what they're doing for the environment. Look what they're doing.
It's a great point.
Yeah,
Great point.
Look what they're doing for conservation of wetlands. I mean, that's helping not just hunters, that's helping everybody.
Yeah, and on those lines, and Rocque can talk about this, or Alex can. I went into Bird Haven one day, and they had the Audubon Society in there benefiting off of the wetlands that were built by what? By duck hunters.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what a lot of people don't understand is the hunters are the biggest advocate of saving, of conserving there. We have the largest population of ducks we've had in over 100 years in the Pacific Flyway. Where do you think that money's coming from? It's coming from us, from the hunters.
Really?
And the people who are involved with CWA and Ducks Unlimited and everything else.
100%.
So it's not just about the God forbid, killing of animals. Even if you're not a hunter and not into guns, look what they're doing for conservation.
Well, you look at it's in Nevada too. Lots of times right after the duck season, all the duck hunters, Chad included, they'll go out and they'll participate in the banding programs.
Sure.
Later on they'll go collect duck eggs and do all that scientific work that goes behind it. That literally has nothing to do with the killing of
not
an animal.
At all. No,
that has everything to do with forwarding the species and not for hunting. I mean, nobody's growing these ducks so that they can later get harvested. That's for the well-being of our wetlands. That's for the well-being of North America and Canada and Alaska and all that. And it's who else is out there doing
100%.
that? You never see anybody else out there doing that.
Well, yeah. I mean, we've talked about it on the podcast and a bunch on different episodes of the Fowl Life. Rocque, is where did this Atlantic flyway population of Canada geese come from? Why are there so many Rocky Mountain elk roaming the mountains? Why is the turkey population in different parts of this country, such as Nevada, so strong right now? Why is our sheep population so strong? It's not because of the antis. It's not because of some lobbyist putting up millions of dollars protecting an animal population from a hunter going out and harvesting a sheep or two a year. And I don't mean the same guy. I'm talking about there's a certain amount of tags allocated because the scientific study has been done that biologically we're not going to affect that population by letting you kill your 2 hen mallards a year in different states, right? So if the scientists are saying it, the biologists are saying it, and hunters are sitting there going, my pocketbook is open. Where do I write? How much and who do I write the check to? That's what is going on here, is that the duck stamps that we buy, the licensing that we buy, the donations that we make to these conservation agencies, such as CWA, that's really where it comes from. And that's what we talk about all the time, is the heart of a hunter. It doesn't take anything in the world. It doesn't take a genius to understand that if you didn't have hunting, the animal populations are going to be.
Oh, it would be decimated.
They've already proven it.
They've proven it. So what do
it's grassroots conservation.
Perfect way to say it.
It is what it is. I mean, it's those individuals that have the passion in their heart, that love to go out and enjoy the open space, the wilderness, and so forth. They go to the dinner, they give their $200, $300, but like you said, everyone adds up. We sell 67,000 state duck stamps in California. We got 21,000 members in CWA at current. There are those that come and they go. There's all the DU members. There's all the Rocky Mountain elk members. There's the mule deer members. There's the cow deer members. There's the pheasant forever members. You have all these grassroots individuals that go to these dinners, that give money so these organizations can go out and protect. And like you said, they can do the scientific data collecting. They can prove what is actually going on there with hard facts, where there are those on the opposite side that want to do it more by emotion. And, unfortunately, emotion can be strong at certain times, and we have to be calm, and we have to be diligent in our collection of data, and we have to present it to them in a fair and open mind. And a lot of times, we win them over. And because the data is so strong and compelling. But it starts at the grassroots level. It really does.
I just wanted to touch on something before we walk past it. Getting people involved, I think, a person like you, Chad, fielding questions on your social media, fielding questions on your websites, things like that. People that are out there that are not involved or want to get involved, I think they can look to resources like you and others out there that can answer those questions for them, and not you don't give a biased opinion, one way or the other of which organization it is, but you can help educate the youth and or people that are just kind of hanging on the fence. I'm not going to lie and say that I belonged to all these organizations when I was younger, but I didn't. I knew my dad would go to the Ducks Unlimited dinner, but I didn't know what it was. And so a younger guy that can explain to the masses or explain even one-on-one in your social media efforts to these guys of why do you need to get involved and why do you need to get involved now? When you're 21, 22, whatever, you start to earn a paycheck and you're a duck hunter, you want to be a duck hunter, get in touch with some guys like you that can explain to them what's going on and get them in there faster.
Yeah, and I always say that the sooner you can learn that in your hunting career, the sooner you can get past the ideology that it's all about stacking them up. It's all about that limit. It's all about that picture at the end. I'm not saying that killing birds isn't awesome. I'm a killer. I'll kill them and eat them all day long. But it's the sooner you can find out in your hunting career, no matter if you're a rookie, you're in it 2, 3, 5, 10, 15, 20, 40 years. I wish, just like Alex just touched on, I wish I would have been a member of the CWA when I first started duck hunting, which was pretty late in life, 26 years old, 27 years old. I wish I would have got involved right then. I did get involved in the Nevada Waterfowl Association and sat on the board, went to the meetings and did everything that I could with my national contacts and network and try to bring money into the state and prizes and hunts by outfitters that I had contacts and relationships with. If we learn that earlier in our lives of this is the big picture, and we're not ignorant to it, because I understand what being 18 is. I know what's important at 18 and 21, and you don't want everybody to be so serious when they're 15, 16, 18, 20 years old. That's the years of your life that you are out there having fun and learning what life's all about and how to get past a road bump or a struggle or how to love or how to be in a relationship. There's a lot of things that happen at that. I'm not saying that let's get all serious and be a politician at 20 years old and become a member of every conservation agency in the world. But all I'm simply saying is that the sooner you can realize this in your hunting career, that there is a bigger picture out there. There are individuals that are dedicated to the task of fighting for our freedoms and our rights as hunters, as gun owners. They're waking up on a daily basis and going to work on our behalf. The sooner we realize that and understand that there is something bigger than just stacking them up or making a pile, the better off we're going to be as a hunter. And I've really learned that a lot in the last 3-4 years being involved with Rocque and the CWA, that there really is effort at the local level, the grassroots like Rocque's talked about, that's happening. And it's easy to take for granted. The NBU to me was always this big ass drunk fest for a bunch of people to go to the Peppermill or the El Dorado on a Friday night and drink and spend a bunch of money on a hunt. That's not anything it's about. Yeah, that happens. And it's going to continue to happen because that's what we do. But the guzzlers, the fire protection, the trade for turkeys for our sheep with the state of Texas, the things that these agencies are doing behind the scenes without anybody with pom-poms going, rah, rah, look at me, is what counts. And that's what John Carlson and Scott Mueller and everybody that's involved at CWA does on a daily basis. And when you go up to John and go, man, you guys are kicking butt, he goes, it was a pretty good week. They're so humbled because this sport and this lifestyle and the advantages of being a hunter, and I mean emotional advantages, because it is therapeutic to be a hunter, straight up therapeutic. I've seen it provide therapy from veterans to women to people that are depressed. It doesn't matter. Hunting is therapeutic. And when you know you have somebody on your support staff going out and fighting for your values every day, let's get involved. Let's keep doing it together. And that is why the Fowl Life and Bandit and Avery and Greenhead Gear are involved with CWA on a Western United States level, is because it does spread eastward. And more importantly, I want that kid in Kansas and that 40-year-old man in Arkansas to wake up and go, you know what? I feel better about this because it's not about stacking them up. It's about what's going on. And when I say going on, Rocque, I want you to talk about this because this still blows my mind. I touched on it 30 minutes ago, is the egg salvage program at California Waterfowl. I'm not going to sit here and say that nobody else in the country is doing it. I have no idea. But what I witnessed down there, and the main thing that caught my attention, Alex, when I was down there, is that I was literally there with Regina Zapp when her phone rang and she said hello, and it was a farmer, a landowner, calling her to say that he just put the brakes on his combine, stopped his combine, and because he saw a hen mallard fly off a nest, and he called them to come out and salvage the eggs.
Yeah.
That's amazing, because most of the times those eggs would have been chewed up.
Oh, yeah.
And done, right? If they hadn't gotten eaten by a fox or a coyote or an owl or a skunk before. This farmer called Regina's app at the CWA and the egg salvage department and said, this is where the farm is. This is the GPS coordinates. Here is my combine. I don't want to go any further until this nest is saved. What the heck, Rocque? I mean, come on. Is that really happening?
It's happening. We would like to see it wider range, but no, growers are becoming educated on the value of that. And it's just good stewardship of the land and conservation, both combined. And it gets our message out to the others. So that way we don't come off. So, we're portrayed a lot of times in Hollywood and so forth, farmers and hunters as, ignorant individuals, low class, just kind of goofuses. And we're really not. I mean, most growers today are highly sophisticated. They have businesses that are, high value. They're definitely, the old saying, they're feeding the world. And it's an important part of the California history is agriculture. And, we've evolved a lot, as we were talking earlier. So them now starting to respect that those little eggs right there, if they stop and they take that nest and they go hatch that, they just saved 8 to 9 mallards. And if every grower in the state could just save one nest or 2 nests prior to destruction of them, that would help the local mallard population immensely over 10 years if you start doing the calculations. So, it is. Egg salvage is growing strong. Last year, we rescued, I think, close to 3,200 eggs, and it was one of our better years. But at the same time, this year our egg salvage is down, but our banding of pintails is up. So egg salvage is one component of it, in CWA, but there's also the other component of the banding side of it. And the two of them, bringing them both together, starts tracking population growths, not relying solely on the feds overflight that they do. And so when the feds come in and say, oh, we flew and we only got X amount of counts, CWA has, well, this is what we have. This is how many eggs we salvage. This is our nest recoveries. This is how many nests we saw per acre. This is how many birds we banded in late January, early February. And you start adding all that data together. And then that's how today we're able to go and fight for 3 pintail because of the collection of data that our biologists are doing.
Yeah, it's scientific.
It's all scientific.
And you hear this one too is, oh, you guys are raising ducks so you could go hunt them. I've gotten that on my social media when we've done this, Crosby, on egg salvage. I'm like, literally, please go back in the basement and shut the door and don't come out for another week.
Right.
That's literally what I want to say to these people. I'm like, you literally saw a farmer call Regina. Regina and her crew go out, save the nest. Mm-hmm. They bring those eggs to an incubating process at Rancho Esquan. Oh, well, you're just going to release them on Rancho Esquan and hunt them. No. Those ducks are incubated, they're hatched, they're put back into marshes all up and down the flyway in the state of California, from the Suisun Marsh in Vacaville, Fairfield area in the Bay Area, all the way to the Salton Sea down in the Southern California area, and all over the Chico area, the Butte Sink, the Sacramento Delta, and it's a success. It's not that you're raising ducks to kill them. That's so ignorant to say. These conservation agencies are doing this for the prolonging of a certain species. And it's because of that hunter's dollar, and more importantly, the sweat equity and the absolute work and the passion that goes into something like the CWA is doing with their egg salvage program, their banning initiatives, their youth camps. Every single thing that I've seen them do is first class and well thought out. And for somebody to get on their keyboard and type that in, that just shows you that we need to do a better job of staying calm, staying cool, collecting the data, and going and presenting it to them and saying, hey, look at look at the success rate of these ducks. Yes, hunters do kill a few, but way more of them return to the breeding grounds, and way more of them are healthy up and down these flyways because of the dollar of a hunter and the heart of a hunter. That's the message.
And the message is, if they understood egg salvage and all the processes that go into it, you find the eggs, you take them to the incubators, like you said. Well, It's more than just an incubator. They're also raised in the pens. And then once they molt and they're able to fly, that's when they get banded. And those mallards are released into different parts of Northern California. They pick them up, and there'll be 200 taken over here. There'll be a couple hundred over there, 50 over here. They're spread out. Honestly, at Rancho Esquan, the only ones they release there are the ones that they do for the youth camp.
The youth camp.
Yeah, and we'll release 150 ducks. Okay, but other than that, they're going back to the areas that they were brought out of, and they're banded. It is a lot of effort to band 1,900 pintail. I mean, it's weeks on end. It's 10 biologists. It's rocket launchers. It's like, will you have a successful band? Hey, 2 years ago, we banded 90 pintail. Okay? This year, we banded 2,000 pintail. That's just, you don't know what what you're going to get out of your investment by getting out there in that workload. So egg salvage has its part. It's a two process. You're getting the birds banded, the mallards. Mallards are one of the toughest ducks to go and collect and put a band on. You need to do it when they're young because they're not a grouping duck like widgeon and pintail and teal. So they don't hang out in big populations of 1,000, 2,000 on an open field where you can easily send rocket nets over them. So being able to ban those mallards, seeing where they travel, we've learned a lot. We're banning mallards in Northern California out of Rancho Esquan, and they're ending up all the way down there on the border or over in Colorado. So they're moving. Okay, we didn't know that before. So
you're saving their lives where they would have been destroyed by farm equipment, and you're collecting data off. It's a win-win situation.
Correct. And you think of if you save, for every hen you save, if she lives, that's 7 more ducks next year when she nests.
Very good.
And all. Well, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and it literally has little to nothing to do with hunting. Is what's funny about it. There's not a person out there that goes, I want to save that nest so that I can kill that duck next year. There's not a person involved in your organization that would make that statement.
No, hell. The Regina, who's no longer there, who I absolutely adore her and her husband, her family, the way they're raising their kids. Awesome family, right, Rocque?
Yep.
Regina loves ducks. I'm not talking about eating ducks or killing ducks. Yeah, she's a hunter, but she just loves ducks. Yeah. And when I saw the passion she had when she would handle those eggs and educate me on what was next for them through the incubator and the hatching and the pins and everything, I was just like, wow, this is exactly what people need to understand hunters do. And her husband, he owns a successful outfitting service, and Rocque works hand in hand. Rocque, talk a little bit about your relationship now, moving off of the CWA. Let's just get into hunting a little bit. And my first question is, and I want you to educate people on this, is the Sacramento Delta and the Butte Sink the same thing?
No.
What's the difference?
Well, the Delta is, over on our westerly coast side. I mean, that is the islands. You have Garibaldi Island and Web Track and so forth out there, and that's just salt, brackish water marsh out there. The Butte Sink is the low spot of the Sacramento Valley, and it used to be just one giant continuous wetlands north of the Sutter Buttes, where all the drainages of Northern California came into. And so over time that was leveled and destroyed and drained, and more farmland was put into play down there in the 30s and 40s. Well, back then a bunch of hunters saw what was happening and went and started buying ground up down there, and the feds came in and put protective easements on it. So that's your Butte Sink, central part of the Sacramento Valley, and the Delta's out to the west.
So it's completely two different areas.
Yeah, it's the Delta and the Sassoon Marsh, they're all kind of connected down there, and that's over there by the Bay Area
where the river systems go in to meet the bay.
Collect.
Yeah.
Where would you rather hunt, Brad?
Personally,
yeah.
Well, I grew up in the Napa River hunting that muddy marsh down there. I'd rather hunt up in the Sink.
Yeah. You'd rather be in the and you have a club right outside of the Sink?
Just north of the Sink. Yes.
Just north of the Sink.
Yeah.
So is Chico a duck hunting destination, or are you hunting around Chico, or are you hunting a long ways from Chico?
Well, I mean, from Chico, you're to Llano Seco from Chico in 10 minutes. so it's not that
My
far.
duck club, yeah, 10, 15 minutes south of Chico, and from there all the way down to the Butte Sink is that's the mother lode.
Yeah, from my house to the Brady Ranch is 37 minutes, and to the Butte Sink, the heart of the sink.
And with you say the Brady Ranch, you're a member at that club. Awesome place. Thank you for taking me there this year. How many duck clubs like that are in the Butte Sink?
Oh, geez, I wish you wouldn't ask me that. I'm shooting off the hip. I would say there's probably, like the Brady. I mean, I'm assuming we're pushing 35 in there, maybe 40.
Does that include like the white mallard? Is
Correct.
What are some? I can name them all day long. I wish I get to go to them, but why are some of them so sought after? Is it because of the farming practices? Is it because of the easement program? Why are some so? When you hear of like the white mallard, people are like, "Oh, it's impossible to become a member there." What like? Why are some of them so sought after in that area, or are all of them sought after?
It's the aesthetics and the scenery, the view, and they do have definitely. There's a lot of birds in the area constantly, because it's an older wetland. I mean, it's established, and the birds have imprinted on there for so many generations that they go back. You got a great refuge system that surrounds it, and so the amount of birds that overwinter down there are very high levels, and then they'll kind of spread out. But in the early months of October and November and first half of December, I mean, I think almost every duck that comes in the valley goes there at some point, and then ventures out, to other places from there.
So when I'm down there, where relatively where we hunt the specks, those rice checks around that area, that's not the Butte Sink, right? Up there by, like, you have Rancho Esqua and you have Durham.
No.
That's not the Butte Sink, correct?
No, they call it the Upper Butte Basin.
The Upper Butte Basin. So those when I drive by these rice checks, Crosby, and I'm going 6 miles an hour, maybe 4, and I got a line of traffic behind me just lighting me up, and I'm driving because Rocky's text and drive, and I want him to quit. So if there's an officer out there, be looking for a black Ford, please. I wish I had his plate number, but I won't drive with Rocky on these farm roads is my point. Brad, I don't think you should anymore either.
Why are you guys picking on me? I remember I have pictures of you.
Stop.
All right, let's not go there.
Alex, I drive by these rice checks, and you could walk over widgeons and pintails. Spoonies, there's a lot of spoonies, and people are like, I hate spoonies. Spoonies are pretty. I'm not going to shoot them because I don't like to eat them, but they're beautiful. But when you drive by these rice checks, you will literally look out there and see so many bull sprig, hen sprig, bull widgeons, and big cotton tops. And you're saying that those ducks that I'm seeing in that area were in the Butte Sink when they first got to that area of California?
Yeah, a lot of times they overfly and they go into Rancho Esquan, and they go into Sink, they go into all the wildlife areas, and then they just kind of move around, because we're in harvest then when they're migrating into the valley in October.
So there's no water in the rice fields.
Yeah, the rice fields are all dry, so the ducks are going to your refuges and to the Butte Sink because they all have water for the October 20th. Most everything's flooded up, so by time the rice fields start getting flooded fully, you're looking at like November 15th. Well, by November 15th, we've got 60% of our birds are in the valley. Okay, they've already came out of Canada and pushed down in. And then we also have our local populations, of course, that we've raised over the year. And they concentrate around that Sutter Butte region there. And then other birds come in, birds move out. It's just kind of the transition, how things move around the valley.
Alex, you're a San Francisco Giants fan. We've made the trek several times from Reno over the Sierras, down through the Sacramento Valley, through Dixon, through Fairfield, Vacaville, down through Vallejo area, that entire I-80 corridor. When you're driving that and you're in the hustle and bustle of Sacramento traffic, and then you get to Fairfield, Vacaville, then you get to the Bay Area, and you just by that time want to shoot yourself with the Bay Bridge traffic and traffic jams, does it ever occur to you that it's like literally a duck haven down there? Like it's a wildfowl, wildlife haven in that area. Does it ever cross your mind? Because there's a lot of people that drive from this area and go that route. Does it ever occur to you?
I couldn't count how many times I've almost wrecked on that little low bridge when you're watching all the ducks light into those fields right there when right when you go past like Budweiser, or it's right before Budweiser. And I always, are we the only guys that are looking at that? And you're just in awe watching all the ducks light into that thing. And every time I go over there with people that don't hunt, I'm like, oh my God, this here is a haven. Look at all those ducks over there. Look at the geese coming this way. Look at that. And everybody else is like, just get me to San Francisco.
That's right at the edge of the Suisun Marsh, right where you're talking.
Well, no, wait, I want to make sure I have it right. Is this like right before Dixon?
Right when you get out of Sac.
Right when you get out of Sac and you're going across, and there's the agriculture on the right, but there's a lot of rice on the left Rocque down there. And there was last year early, there was a ton of specs in that area. Right? Is that where you're talking about?
Right there.
Yeah, right by the Budweiser plant right there.
Is that the Causeway? The Vic Fazio?
Yeah,
wildlife
it's the
area?
Causeway,
That's
what
the
they're
Causeway,
talking about right there.
Yeah. Holds a lot of birds all year long.
But my point in that question is that, and my dad taught me this a long time ago, because I don't even know how many almost automobile accidents we got in as a family because of wildlife, because my dad was a hunter, and we don't miss that kind of stuff. And if people would just say, wow, man, like that's what Autobahn preaches, is take the time to get out and look at what this country has to offer. Yeah, there is the Fisherman's Wharf, and there's AT&T Park, and there's everything, Ghirardelli Square, and everything that San Francisco has to offer. I'm not going to say that I don't like being in Frisco once in a while. Maybe I will say that. I don't like it that much. I do like it. I like the food. But
G&R was pretty good there.
Yeah, Guns N' Roses was awesome. But what we look at on the grand scale of things is so much more important, so much more vivid to me. Exactly where he's talking about is exactly where I was thinking about on that drive, is like, wow. After you get out of the Sierras, which is one of the most prettiest mountain ranges I've ever seen in my life, and then you drop down into the Sacramento Valley, and now you're in the Delta in the duck country. I'm just like, man, I wish everybody would take the time to look at this for what it really has to offer. And that's what people are missing. That's where I was going with that Chico comment. Is Chico is known as, a little business town. It's Sierra Nevada Brewery. It's Chico State College, and it's farming. I mean, that's really what Chico is a farming town. It's
the biggest industry, yeah.
It's a farming community. But
for Tom, a party town, apparently.
Yeah, and Tom says it's a party town. And it is. I mean, it's been voted that by Hugh Hefner. I mean, God rest his soul, Hugh Hefner. I mean, he voted it all the time as one of the top party schools in the country.
By the way, those were the years that Rocque and I were going to school there.
Oh, we've seen the pictures with the mullets and
fanny packs and
razor blades.
Neon clothes.
Yeah. Razor
Walkman.
blades.
We were there.
What?
No, I wanted to say too, and I did it yesterday. Is when you are a hunter, you enjoy the outdoors. Driving becomes a whole new game, right? I'm always looking for deer.
Oh,
when you go through the Sierras, I'm looking. I want to see a bear. I want to see a deer. Is there going to be a coyote that runs across the road? Chad and I, when we drove to Tennessee once, a bighorn sheep ran across the road right at the Hoover Dam down in Vegas. And those are I go crazy when I see that, and I don't think the rest of the world that isn't into this does that. Would you agree? I mean, nobody else is looking at that stuff.
Nobody is. No. And that's the thing, is that when you're driving with somebody like Rocque, I'm trying to get the point across to the guy that the real social media is us. Like, we're right here, and he is literally on Instagram nonstop and texting, and his network is strong, and he's missing the important part of what the Butte Sink and the Northern Butte have to offer. And I'm joking there in a way, but I'm just trying to protect my friend Rocque. I just wanted to make sure that there's a public service announcement that comes out of this podcast that we have to form a unity to get Rocque to quit texting and driving. And Brad, I want you to head that up starting this evening, please.
Well, all Rocque needs to do is look at his buddy Brad, who used to be pretty famous for texting and driving and looking at things, and didn't work out so well.
Yeah,
I
saw the pictures of your truck. And hence the reason.
December 30th, 2013, bad day for.
Hence the reason Rocque put you guys on the plane today and just took the 31-minute jump over the mountains.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if we're out on the other thing that this part of California has to offer, and I'm heavy on this now because you guys introduced me to Almanor in the last couple of years. Almanor's awesome.
Fantastic place.
Almanor?
Yeah. Have you been?
Oh yeah. Smallmouth bass and.
Yeah, and boats and Bee Gees. That's what I want to talk about.
Best lake in the state of California, but keep that quiet because we like it.
Tahoe's pretty awesome.
Yeah, let everybody go to Tahoe.
We do. I'm not going to say that. I'm sitting here trying to say that Almanor is awesome, but why? We're listening to Bee Gees.
Yeah, that's Jason Carr's fault there.
What song is it? I love it.
Oh,
How sweet is your love? How
what is it? How deep is your love?
How deep is your love?
That's Jason Carrey and Tyler Marsh.
Dude, please, Tom, will you please cue that up? Bee Gees, Andy Gibb and his brother Barry. How deep is your love?
They'll be here later tonight.
They're gonna be here.
Jason sings the high point,
and then Tyler Marsh comes in and does this dance called the meat grinder, and I literally will fall off of my chair in the boat laughing. He'll get up on the back of the boat in nothing but like, it's not really a Speedo, but it's not really a man's bathing suit. It's just kind of like there. And he does this. We got to have him do the meat grinder tonight. But Almanor is special because, again, it's 80 feet deep. It gets warm. It's snow fed, spring fed. It's in a area of the Sierras that's absolutely aesthetically gorgeous. You have the boating, you have 4th of July, you have the housing, the developments around it, you have campsites around it. And then on top of that, like what he just said, and what I touched on earlier is my nephew Chase at 6 years old caught a 7.2 pound brown out of there. The fishing is awesome. The crawfish is awesome. We've trapped crawfish and had them at your New Orleans Mardi Gras party. That's what California is to me. And when you start talking about what a state has to offer, I want people to understand that it's way more than Rodeo Drive or Pacific Beach or Malibu or Newport, Sacramento.
Agreed.
San Francisco, Sacramento, or California, especially the northern part, all the way into like Cedarville and Eagleville and that part of Surprise Valley. It's gorgeous. And if people took the time to educate themselves on a destination that they should visit or make a drive on that part of California, it's worth it. It's worth every second that it takes to do it. And you talk about California, you talk about Nevada, you talk about Arkansas. We've touched on different states. The reason that we're here is the common denominator of hunting. And we could talk about stacking them up and piling them up, but really why we do it is because we're friends. We love being around each other. I know that when I go down to Rockies to turkey hunt, I'm going to see turkeys. I'm going to have an opportunity to kill turkeys. But there's also going to be the camaraderie, the friends, the memories, that what really the important part of that hunt is. The nights at the Fifth Street Steakhouse, the nights at the shop grilling out. And I think that's why I always say, Brad, is that my favorite place in the world to be is in Italy, and it's not New York City, and it's not the Bahamas. It's Duck Camp, USA.
Oh, yeah.
And when I say Duck Camp, you could insert anything: fishing camp, deer camp, turkey camp, whatever it is.
Sure.
Just being at hunting camp is awesome. What does it mean? Like, let's end it. Let's go out on a high note. I want to have a little bit of fun with this, but what does it mean? I mean, what would we tell somebody? Like, what do you do at hunting camp? It's like, what don't you do there? What don't you get to experience there? Whether you're a kid or a dog or a woman or a man, a campfire and a highball and a steak and a coffee pot and the smell of nature and the sun coming up and going. I mean, where can you tell me if there's any better place, Rocque? Brad?
Hunting camps, I was raised in them. And, Butte Creek Gun Club and at Llano Seco, those clubhouses, we called them, not hunting camps. But, I mean, I just remember there'd be 20 guys in there. And I remember, back at 9 years old, the guys, that's when pelts were worth a lot of money. And the guys were out trapping muskrats and beavers and stuff like that. And these guys were making bear stew, beaver stew, all these different things. And you're just like, you're 9 years old. And you're watching these guys, have their cigars, drink their beer, have their talks, their laughs, and you're learning. You're seeing what it's like outside of just that true home life. There's another part of life about educating and being social. Okay, so you're learning social skill sets.
You mean like Instagram or social media, like MySpace?
Right, that's not what I'm talking about.
I thought that's how you socialize these days. Right?
Is that how you do it? No. You are the social king, man.
Yeah,
that's how the millennials do it.
Yeah.
Let's not get started.
Yeah, just look at all the stuff you post morning, noon, and night.
He fires back.
Whoa,
he's back.
But no, but seriously, when you go into the clubhouse scene and you have guys staying there and they're coming up on the weekends, they're coming from the city, and they were rolling in on a Friday afternoon, unloading their stuff, throwing it in. They were just so excited because tomorrow morning they were going to duck hunt. They got out to their blinds, after they unloaded all their gear, camouflaged them up, fixed some decoys, and the next morning they're in their blind 40 minutes before shooting time, after they made a breakfast at the clubhouse. Then they come in, they have the lunch after their hunt. That night's the big dinner on Saturday night with 25, 30 people there. Mom's there, dad's there, there's wine, there's Jack Daniels on the bar, highballs are being made, there's ducks being cooked, deer being cooked, lasagnas, there's brownie platters, there's garlic bread, all this stuff, twice baked potatoes flowing through. I'm getting hungry.
Yeah.
And
you're making me hungry. Stop.
I mean, this is what I was raised with.
That's how every kid should be raised, in my opinion.
And when you get there, and then when we got the shop, when we bought that ranch, and when I looked at that room up there, and I'm looking at that, I'm like, what the heck am I going to do with this? I could have rented it out. I could rent it out to somebody and get $900 a month.
You knew Chad was coming.
And I sat there and I thought to myself, I'm like, you know what? We're going to call it the shop, and we're going to build a clubhouse in the shop. It's the only shop in Northern California that's a hunting camp. And that's like that. And so we designed it what it was, put our boats in there and put all of our hunting gear and our quads and our Argos and our side-by-sides. And
turkey mounts and duck
mounts, all of our, memorable pictures on the walls. And
yes, there is.
And we do things. We learn. Some of our friends learned how to dance there upstairs.
Tombo. But I mean, in a way, you're speaking on a different level. I just figured this out that you really do learn social skills at camp as a kid. You're watching your dad interact with his buddies. I just realized that, and we talk about my old man all the time. He used to put spit on his finger and write the mileage from one mountain range to the next on the dashboard. And I was like, this crazy son of a bitch, what is he doing? He's like, this is gross. Dude, now we do it. We get down and we draw maps in the dirt, and we could go on Google Earth, but we're like, nope, we're doing it OB's way, right?
Yeah.
That we learned how to be a man or a provider being at camp at a young age, being around that fire. Yeah, we heard some cuss words, and we heard some jokes, and we heard some stories, but we learned how to socialize the real way. The campfire is the original social media, right? It's the original social network, because that's where you'd kick your feet up and your dog was laying next to you and the deer was hanging or the ducks were, getting ready to be skinned or whatever the case was, and those stories happen. And the way you just described it made the hair on my neck stand up and goosebumps on my arms, because I'm like, I'd much rather be there right now than here. And I'm home. I love home.
Yeah.
I love being home. But to have my daughter Alyssa or somebody, or my nephew Chase, or be with your kids at a hunting camp, you were just at sheep camp with your mom. There's no better place in the world.
Nope.
I don't care if it's a beach or a mansion or Hearst Castle in California. There's no better place in the world than duck camp.
Well, no, you learn. You come out of there. You got your senses pick up on the certain smells, and then you remember those smells, whether it's the mold in the in the laundry room where everybody had stored their waders, okay, and you have that, and then all of a sudden you're 45 and you walk into a room and you smell that smell from the waders back when you were 10. Well, your memory goes back to that, and you feel good. Because you lived that memory, then everything else comes back to you about those times with your buddies, with Jackson, with Ford, with Burns, with Forsythe. All those memories start kind of flowing back, and you go, I got to get my kids into that.
Yep.
I want them to have that exact same experience.
Pass that same thing on to them.
I want to pass it on, because I want my grandkids, Rico and Joey's boys, I want them or daughters to experience that. And I don't want that legacy to go away, because my dad, he built that. I don't think he really knew what he was building.
No, but that's what was so awesome about him and my dad, or somebody in that generation. They had no idea.
They had no idea. To them, it was just them being a dad
and a provider,
a man, because they didn't have the social media. They weren't seeing what other people were doing across the U.S. in a moment's notice. Okay, they couldn't see it. So they had what they had to work with, and they made the best of it, and it was fun. Okay? And so today, we need to do that for our kids, and we need to have more experiences with that. And that's what, at 50 now, you were talking earlier how you like to still go and blow it up and kill it and do all that. I do too, but and I think in another 8 years, you're 42, 43 right now. In 8 years,
39.
you're going to
Whatever.
You're going to do like I think I did. I eclipsed, okay? And I watched my dad when he eclipsed. And, it's about that mid 50, 55, age where it's just like, if I forgot the gun, it really doesn't matter.
Nope.
It does
By,
not
by
matter.
saying eclipse, I mean your hair got gray and you can't
Yeah.
see anymore. 'Cause I definitely have eclipsed.
Well,
as
I want
well.
to make it clear you said that. I said that I'd like to kill a duck.
Right.
I understand that it's what you're saying, though. I'm not saying that I've eclipsed. I still like to get after them.
Right.
But I understand the bigger picture, and I think that that's where you're going with that, is that wanting to kill and needing to kill and loving to kill, those are all different things, and you can argue that all day long. We're not going out there for the kill. But if you go look on those grills right now, that's why I kill it.
Yeah.
I like to eat it.
So do I.
But do I get fired up when mallard ducks pitch into my decoys
Sure.
and put their feet down and drop and back flap? Well, heck yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it if it wasn't like that. If it was just going out and shooting at a buffalo every day, I probably wouldn't do it unless I needed that meat to subsidize and feed my family.
I'm not saying, that I don't enjoy going out in the blind and watching that birds work in. I love that. That is the most awesome experience, is to watch them birds cup over the tree, or that or getting that tornado going out in the goose field, or that big buck coming on. But I like to do it now with someone that hasn't experienced it.
And
yet.
that's where
That's
we
just the
we
most
started this
amazing.
yeah.
That's the most amazing feeling when you look over and those 4 wood ducks or 5 mallards are coming into the decoys, and they're cupped up and they're 15 yards in front of the blind, and they're just backpedaling over my Avery decoys, and they're sitting there, and I tell the little ones, whoever it might be, could be Sally, could be Jimmy, could be Rico, Joey, whoever it is, and I go, now, like that, and they get up and 6 shots go off and 1 bird falls, and you're just sitting there. And 15 years ago, it would have been cussing and all that other stuff with your buddy. But now I sit there. Those kids, they don't care. No. They just sit there. That to them, they got one. Now you're high-fiving. They got one,
And it's contagious.
It's contagious. And you sit there, and that's what keeps me young. That's where I can keep doing this, why I keep going, why I can keep coming and being part of your circus and hanging out with it and getting it out there. And, these laughs, participating in these jabs, taking the ridicule at 50 years old, where those people where I'm from wouldn't even begin to think about saying some of the things that you say. And it's like, and it becomes hilarious, because I love it, because I want to give it back too. And so when you get to give it back, that's where the social skills come from.
Yep.
That's where the skill sets come from, and that where people are losing today. What keeps individuals youthful? I mean, if
That's
you're
such a great point.
if you're a cranky old 50-year-old, like we know some of them on your streets, or you see them at walking around town, they have those individuals are not having a fulfilled life. No. They are not getting to experience things that we are experiencing today. And I can be honest, I can be truthfully honest with you. Fly fishing is another one of those sports that you're kind of doing your own thing. It's not that camaraderie. I love fly fishing, okay? It's probably the most relaxing thing that I can have, that I can do. But you are by yourself. You are thinking. You don't want anybody within 100 yards of you, okay? Or it's like, the cross is going on them. It's like, get the hell back. This is my stream. But it's not like duck hunting. Duck hunting is really unique in that aspect.
It is. And you talk about, there's a format for everything with all aspects of hunting. But I've been in deer camps, and it's laundry, put your clothes in an oxygenated bag and have maybe one beer and eat dinner and go to bed at 7 and wake up and sit by yourself all day. I get it. And you want to kill 180-inch whitetail with your bow. That's awesome. I get it. But when you're in the duck blind one time and you're cooking breakfast and you're ribbing and going back and forth and you're with kids and friends, and the camaraderie is just, and Alex touched on it when he first got here, is that it's just different.
Totally.
Duck hunting is so awesome in the fact, and we could talk about it all day, and people that listen to us or watch our shows or pay attention to my, what did he say, morning, noon, and night posts that I do on social media, they understand that we love duck hunting. And a success story that we'll end on this. I got one more little thing after this. And again, we appreciate everybody listening to This Life Ain't For Everybody. There's a success story that came out of Rocque Merlo and CWA's camp in the last year, and it got even bigger this week. And I'm going to say this in a nutshell. I met a friend that's now a friend, through a friend, Drew Wallace at Oakley. Oakley Sunglasses introduced me to this girl, Kayla Granger, 2 years ago at SHOT Show in Vegas. They're all Rangers. They're all Army Rangers, and her husband was an Army Ranger, and he was killed in a parachuting accident in, I believe, Arizona on a training drill. His family was there. They were getting ready to have lunch after the accident. I mean, but before, it wasn't supposed to happen.
He was jumping with his mother-in-law.
And he passed away. And I met Kaylin. We stayed in touch. And she's just awesome. Just this beautiful soul. 3 boys. I think they range from 8 to 12 years old. Football players, wrestlers. Now they're hunters. And here's how the story goes, is that she calls me after SHOT Show and says, I'd love to get my boys into hunting. Well, they live in California. They live down in Southern California.
Lake Arrowhead. And I called Rocque. I said, hey, this story I just told. I told Rocque, he goes, give her my number, tell her to call me. Just like that. Boom. She calls Rocque. Next thing you know, she's up there on a duck hunt with her uncles and her brothers. Then she goes up there on a deer hunt. Now she's coming back for another duck hunt. She came back for another duck hunt this last year. Now she just joined the CWA and is leading up the Lake Arrowhead chapter.
Lake Arrowhead chapter of California Waterfowl Association. Their first dinner is in July, and it's a military.
The dinner's June 29th in Lake Arrowhead.
And it's a military themed dinner.
It's a veterans and youth themed dinner. Yes,
veterans, and she's taking that on as the chairman of that chapter of CWA. A young mom in maybe her mid 30s, late 30s,
33
with 33 with 3 boys. And now she is leading up a dinner at Lake Arrowhead for CWA and has all 3 boys loving hunting. And just as importantly, she's addicted to it now.
Yeah.
And that's what knowing people like Rocque, to where he didn't even say, well, my schedule's busy. I'm kind of booked up. I got farming going. He goes, give her my number, tell her to call. It just happened again this year. We participated in the UC Davis college camp at Bird Haven with Mr. Paul Bonderson. The girl that we hunted with, I called Rocque, said, do you mind if I put her in contact? Because she's addicted. She lives in Southern California with her boyfriend. He goes, give her my number. And now she's coming to come up and goose hunt with him.
Good.
Amazing. The heart of a hunter. So that's the reason why I wanted to have Rocque on here and have you on here, Brad, and have Alex join in here, is that the more people that we can introduce people like Rocque, get them introduced to people like Rocque, there's a reason why we hunt. There's a bigger picture, that bigger picture that Mr. Larry saw, that my dad Orv saw. They didn't even know they were doing it. Maybe they didn't see the bigger picture, but there was something that came out of it to where here we are in 2018 in this studio, talking about Larry Merlo, talking about ore building, talking about CWA, talking about the heart of a hunter, getting kids and women involved, becoming better providers, becoming better men, learning how to socialize, learning social skills, learning that there's more than an iPhone and a smartphone and an iPad, and learning that those dirt roads of America are so awesome and that we need to start paying attention to them, and learning and knowing that there are people doing the background work that are benefiting us on a daily basis. The sooner we learn that, the better off we're going to be, right? Yeah. That was the theme of today's podcast, and I knew we would get into some politics, and I knew we would get into some conservation and farming and memories and camaraderie and laughs and ribbon and duck camp and everything that goes into it, because that's what we do and that's what we live. And I believe that Rocque touched on it just 5 seconds ago. He said, we stay young. I really do feel that at 43 years old, I feel like better than I did when I was 25 because I have duck camp.
Yeah.
And I have the ability to take my daughter out and plink and shoot and blow a duck call. And she just got a new puppy, a new yellow lab. She named it Duff. I kind of helped her name it Duff, the bass player for Guns N' Roses. We already have Axel, but
she named it Duff.
She did. She loved the name. But she loves it. She's eaten up with it. She watches The Foul Life. She doesn't go, oh, that's, yeah. Tom will tell you this right now. Alex will tell you this. When she gets here tonight, she's going to go, where's the duck? I want to eat duck. She loves to eat wild duck. I love it. It makes me get almost teared up knowing that my dad preached that to us. And now here I am working with you guys and talking about Larry and good friends that you guys made the trip up to do the podcast and the fish fry tonight and the wild game feed. And Alex, and we've been tight for so many years. That's what hunting does for me.
Same barber?
Yeah. genetics.
Has he eclipsed?
Barbershop genetics. Just because Rocque got hair plugs when he was 24, Brad's got the same barber too.
You're outnumbered here, bub.
Yeah, you're outnumbered.
Me and Tom.
Tom has got a beautiful. Look at that. Head
He's
of hair.
got a beautiful head of hair.
Beautiful
God,
mop,
he's
yeah.
gorgeous. God, he's attractive.
Rocque, you don't get to think at all. I'm just going to pop some questions. You got. I'm coming down the line. You
Yeah.
guys get ready. Favorite bird to hunt?
Specklebelly.
Brad,
Pintail.
Alex.
Coyote.
Favorite bird to eat? Rocque.
Mallard.
Pintail. I love
Specklebelly.
Wow, I would have went with a speck. I can't believe that you picked a mallard over a speck, but I get it. Rocque, I'm going to leave this one up to you. Best call maker of all time when it comes to duck calling?
J.J. Lairs.
Joe Lairs. Genius.
Yeah.
Brett Crow owns it now in Chico,
Yep.
but Joe Lairs, you talk about a freaking badass. J.J. Lairs calls and just just what he means to that community in all of duck hunting and duck calling.
We talked about it. He thought ahead of his time.
Yeah, forward
And
thinking.
the industry followed behind
He
him.
made his money in dental and patenting
Yes.
and
Dental tools.
dental tools.
The
Made in Chico.
first JJ Laird's call I saw, I think Chris Ravencroft had one of the prototypes back in the late 80s.
Aluminum.
Yeah, aluminum calls, and he was blowing
Before
that thing. and-
polycarbonate or any of those. Well, the plastics were
Yeah.
out. The plastics, the synthetics were starting to come out. The old plastics, and the Haydell, which hunting with those two guys this year was awesome. Part of duck hunting, the camaraderie.
Louisiana,
Yeah.
Haydells are awesome.
Awesome, both brothers. But Joe Lairs, that aluminum call he made was just the craziest thing ever. Watching him make them on a lathe, one at a time.
Yep. Pretty amazing.
Important question in a duck hunter's mind. Where I'm going to relate this to where you guys hunt. Sunny or foggy or cloudy?
Foggy,
For a duck hunt,
I love it.
hunting in the fog.
Give me fog.
With clients or for a personal hunt?
It doesn't matter.
You like hunting in the fog?
Well, I mean, you can't. The first 2 days of fog is no good, but on our third day it lifts and we have high fog and it's epic.
What about specklebelly? Same thing on a
Epic.
goose hunt?
Epic.
So you don't want sunshine and wind?
That's great if you have the birds in your area, but the fog puts the birds in our area, and then it stacks them in our area because
Oh.
we're unique in our valley because the fog builds from the bottom end of the valley and builds north. So as the fog's building, all the ducks are pushing ahead of it at night. And so when the fog finally gets to the valley, that's when it gets dense and high, when it gets up to our end, and that's when it starts lifting up and all the birds are stacked up there. So then our birds are just everywhere.
I agree with them. I watch your show, and
Yeah,
you
we
guys
know you guys
always
like
want
sun.
sunshine and wind. I'm like, what are they talking about?
Well, yeah.
Because I was programmed for weather. I mean, we need stormy, nasty. As I get older, I don't like the rain as much, but I'm.
But on the flip to that, from what y'all are saying, at the Brady, sunshine and wind.
Yeah, in mallard country.
In Mallard country because of the north wind. And you get that north wind and sun is epic down there. But up there in the rice field.
Fog you, Rocque.
But it's rice you're talking.
rice hunting.
Rice
Doing
hunting.
So rice hunting, you want the fog.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Hands down.
by far.
Does it matter?
That's a pro tip, I think, right there. I don't know. A lot of people knew that.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Back in the day when it used to stay foggy in Chico for 3 weeks,
3
you would
weeks,
not
it
see
was
the
just-
sun.
well,
we don't see that anymore.
Back in the 90s, when we would hit the fog, we would do double trips, morning and afternoon. And you would sit there and it was a competition between my guides is who can be done the fastest. It was literally like 47 minutes, 28 ducks. And it mostly, widgeon, sprig, and some mallard teal. But
You're not saying that you shot over the limit, are you?
no, I'm saying when we're guiding
Oh, okay,
with guide
good,
parties.
good.
And so never, don't do that.
Okay, good.
He really doesn't.
I know.
I know he does.
I don't believe in it.
And he can't hit anything.
So I'm a fairly naive duck hunter. And you're relying mostly on calling then, right? If visibility's low, or is it?
It is. It's a lot of calling.
Who's
but,
calling?
But they can. The
Me.
birds are. I mean, your visibility is literally about 600 feet. Okay, that's your visibility. 4 levees, and but the birds are lost by the time they figure out all the decoys and all that. It's too late. They're sucked into you 25 feet. So it's really good. I mean, the conditions for fog are great. Next question.
Next question.
Next.
Have you ever paid attention to this girl named Maddie Nightingale. Do you know who she is? Have you heard of her?
An amazing, amazing woman. She's a girl, but she's 14. So, 15 now.
I talked to somebody yesterday that watched the Fowl Life for the first time, and they watched the California episode. And who is that young girl that can mouth call that good? I said, that's Maddie Nightingale. She's an amazing girl.
I met Maddie my first time. Maddie was 5 or 6 at the Gridley Junior Duck Calling Contest. And Maddie, her grandpa brought her, Vince, to the duck calling contest. And Maddie came up on the stage and no calls. And so I went to hand her one of my duck calls, and she just shook her head no. Shy little thing until she started doing her wood duck with her mouth. And then she just was in her element. She did this wood duck call, and we all just looked at her, and everybody in the audience went, whoa, that really sounds like a wood duck. And then she just evolved over the next 6 years by learning how to do all our bird species up in California. And then she did the elk. And then her and I, helped her master the peacock and the swan. This girl can do the mallard.
You can do a peacock?
Yeah, I did it.
Let me hear it.
Yeah.
So you're doing a peacock sound when we're speck hunting?
No, that's a snow goose. It's pretty similar.
It's pretty similar. This would be my goal and my dream with her, because to me she's amazing. I think she's 16 or 17 now, maybe 18. Beautiful,
15,
intelligent. Like, just her grandpa's Vince is awesome. It'd be cool if we had like a Maddie Nightingale babysitting service to where we let her babysit every kid in America and let them learn what you're supposed to be like as a teenager,
yeah.
right? It's like she's an amazing individual.
Maddie is she takes Huntress to another level.
Totally different level.
All of it: dove, duck, deer, fish, camp, being out in the wilderness,
family, amazing.
And she's an amazing volleyball player. Strong volleyball player,
like Brad.
Yeah, I got good vertical leap.
And but no, Maddie's just one of those amazing women that you'll come across. And I've got to be honest with you, Brad, or Chad and Brad, say.
Yes, Rob.
There are when I do these youth calling contests, I am starting to see these kids, boy or women, that are going to be those aggressive duck hunters like ourselves sitting at this table. You watch them at that early age, at 9 years old, 10 years old, then you get to see them the next year, and you see them the next year, and you watch their skills, and you can tell they've been practicing. They're putting as much into their calling as they are into if they're playing baseball or football or whatever they're doing. They're doing it. And
it's awesome.
They're awesome. And now I got these 15-year-olds that are standing on a call, and they're doing cadence nonstop, just hitting every note, just, hitting the pitches right. And, if you say you get chills on your arms and you get excited. When I watch these kids, when I saw them at 8 and now I see them at 15, it's like I was part of that.
And that's why I'm so excited. When you guys see Chase tonight, he's 7. He turned 7 9 days before Alyssa did in December. He started crying yesterday because he saw a rabbit in my yard and tried to get the pellet gun out of my room. Well, we had about 5 people over here and puppies running around. I'm like, you're not getting the gun. He lost his mind. I want to get the rabbit, Uncle Chad. I'm like, wow, he's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't like the crying part of it. But literally, he called in his first coyote and shot him. He was sitting in Uncle Albie, who's Alex right here, Crosby's lap last year, on TV. You're going to see this with Savage Arms and Federal Premium Ammunition pretty soon on this deal we're getting ready to produce for him. At 87 yards, Alex, or 89?
87 yards.
87 yards at 6 years old with a broke down 22-250. When I say broke down, shortened down for him, sitting in Crosby's laps, called the coyote in, and smokes him on camera at 6 years old.
And it's hilarious because I pushed the safety off for him, and I said, when you get him in the scope, go ahead. And I don't even think I finished the word ahead, and the trigger went off, and that thing dumped. He had been watching him the whole time.
But
it was
at
awesome.
at 6.
What about when you take him to Lake Almanor?
Yeah.
As soon as his feet hit the floor in the morning, when are we
He'll
going
wear
fish?
you out. When
are
we
we
go
going
fish? Most kids are like,
Uncle
where's
Brad.
the phone? I
Uncle
want to go
Brad.
on the iPad. And he's like, that's what's awesome. Clay's doing an awesome job. And that's, I'm not saying that it's the right way or the only way, okay? It is the right way. I just think that the kids that are in the city and that they don't get to experience that, if we had a way to get them and reach them and get their parents to see the value of being on that boat or in that blind, or just hanging with Maddie at a calling contest and seeing how much fun she's having and the social skills she has, it's just a cool way to live, and it's an awesome way to raise your kids. And that's why we did this. That's why I wanted Rocque. I could talk to Rocque on so many different levels. We didn't even get to Harry today. We didn't get to Lago di Merlo wine and how awesome their family winery is. We didn't get to talk a whole lot about the almonds. It's almonds, Rocque. We didn't get to talk about walnuts in your farming operation. You got so much going on. He's a Renaissance man in California, and it's because of Larry. Larry instilled a work ethic into Rocque. Larry instilled a lot into Brad. Alex's dad is instilling it to this day into him, and my dad did the same to us, and there's a reason why we're all together. I truly believe that good people find each other, work ethic finds each other, and I think that with everything that you're doing, Rocque, as a man, as a father, as an uncle, as really an inspiration to a lot of people in that California area. You will hear somebody once in a while say, Rocky's got the life. Yeah, Rocque created a life for himself because he kicks ass and he works hard and he knows how to treat people and he takes care of people. So with that being said, with everything that John Carlson and Scott Mueller and Holly Heiser and Jake and Mark and Mr. Tom Berryhill and everybody that represents the CWA, the volunteers, the banquets, all of the people that are involved in the egg salvage program, the youth camps, all of the hunting camps that CWA puts on, the women's camps, everything that is going on at California Waterfowl, get involved. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Everybody, all of you volunteers with the CWA. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have a lot of the knowledge that we have and the data that we're collecting on a daily basis. Thank you, Rocque. Brad, you the man. I'm ready for the fish fry. Alex, you the man. You're my boy. And this life ain't for everybody. Rocky's life might not be for me. It might not be for you. Brad's construction life and hunting passion might not be for you. And the way that Alex lives his life may not be for you. But that's not what this podcast is about. There's a lot of different walks of life that come together because good people find good people. Work ethic finds work ethic. And hunting is the common denominator that's brought us all together. I'm Chad Belding, your host. Tom Rashachuk, thank you for producing another awesome 2.5 hours of nonstop gibberish. It's time to go make fun of the way Rocque eats his spaghetti. Slurps it up. Tom,
thanks for lunch. Was lunch supposed to be 2 hours ago? Because I don't think any of us have seen it yet.
Tom, will you please start the song and play us out? Go ahead.
Tom, please.
This life
Where's
ain't for
lunch,
everybody.
Tom?
Thank you. Brad, listen.
Is it? Oh, yeah.
Wait, put those headphones on.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
listen.
When Carrot gets a hold of this, he's going to love it.
Listen to this.
See you rise in the morning sun.
Is this the
You
Bee Gees?
touch
Bee
me
Gees.
in the pouring rain.
Wait till the hook comes.
Is that?
Hey, Brad, here comes the hook.
No, it's after this.
No, it's coming up, though. I could just see Rocque at his 50th birthday party. He was dancing. He looked like a mix between Wormser on Revenge of the Nerds and Urkel.
I got to film this for Carrot. Is this on outside?
Here it comes, Tom.
Here it is.
Listen.
How deep is your love? Your love. How deep is
This was the party in Chico back in the
No,
day. Is that song? Get out of here.
This was like,
This is
hit the floor.
This is the boat. This and the Pina Colada song by Rupert Holmes. If you like Pina Colada. This is what we listen to on their boats at Almanor. You talk about a party, boy. This is what we get down.
Thank you for not inviting me.
But-
Jason Carrier and Tyler Marsh.
But we
right?
also do listen to Pitbull options. I got options.
Mr. 305.
All right, this life ain't for everybody. Chad Belding, Rocque Merlo, Brad Forsythe, Alex Crosby, our producer, Tom Rashachuk, everybody here at Foul Life, TFL Productions, Bandit, Avery, Greenhead Gear. Thank you all very much. Until next time, we will see you later.